What's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 6. It is good to be back. I had this show last week, week 5 waivers. Ultimately, my week 5 streams weren't in the cards last week. Hosted a bunch of friends and family from out of town, so had to coordinate and schedule a week's worth of events. Which culminated with the Eagles-Rams game in LA at SoFi on Sunday. Awesome atmosphere. Super fun to be a part of. My Eagles got the job done, got the win. All in all, very busy week, very good week, very fun week, but very busy week. So I had to take off for the most part on the streams. Tried to make myself available in Discord when and where I could, but it was a little bit of a struggle. Ultimately, appreciate you guys with your patience and sticking it out. Full slate of streams this week. Getting back into it. Looking forward to talking shop with everybody. Sorting through whatever we've got to get sorted through after week 5 with week 6. We'll get into all of that today. So hopefully everybody had a successful week 5. What worked out for you? What didn't work out for you? And if you lost, let's find a way to regroup. Right? Let's right the ship. Let's figure this out and get sorted out. We'll start with the injuries, and there are, once again, several big ones. None more than Justin Jefferson, who I believe was officially placed on injured reserve. He will miss the next 4 games. If he wasn't the first pick in your fantasy draft, he was probably the second pick. The only way he was any lower than that was in standard scoring, where teams were, in leagues that prioritize running back. Other than that, he was a top 2 pick, probably in damn near every format, every draft, whatever have you. We're talking about a significant blow for the next month, being without Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne is I guess a plug-and-play wide receiver 3. Hopefully you've got already better options than that on your bench. If you don't, we will get into whatever potential wide receivers are on your wire. So if you are hurting from losing Justin Jefferson, give me names on the wire. Let me know what you're working with. Let me know who you already have on your bench. Whether you're looking to add KJ Osborne or whether you're looking to add somebody else, we can get that sorted out. James Conner also expected to miss multiple weeks. So most likely in all formats, just based on what is likely availability, Amari Demercado is going to likely be the top waiver ad this week if he wasn't already on rosters. And he was probably only on rosters in 16-team leagues or larger dynasty leagues. But in your 10 and 12, probably even 14-person redraft leagues, Demercado is all likelihood available. If you certainly need a running back, especially if you had James Conner, this is an, at this point in the season, an all of your fob type of move that you're probably going to want to make. I know the report with James Conner is that he's expected to miss multiple weeks. I don't know if he was officially placed on IR. I'm gonna check and see if whether Rappaport tweeted anything about it. But it sounds like he's going to miss a decent amount of time. Is going on injured reserve. Yep, that was reported out of 2 hours ago. Conner will miss the next 4 games. Demercado is the top waiver ad this week. Honestly, at this point, these are these types of injuries where, if you really need a running back, half your fob, 60%. If you're really hurting at running back, if you really need a running back, maybe you have James Conner. 60, 65% of whatever fob you have left, especially if your running back depth is thin, you might as well just grab Demercado. He's a volume based for the next 4 weeks. You probably have to just say RB3. You hope he's got RB2 upside, but you're probably looking at volume-based RB3, and that's what you can hope for. Nevertheless, if you need the player, if you need the running back, if you need a guy at that position, he's the top ad this week. He's going to be the top ad this week. Other running backs to consider, Roschon Johnson, who is in concussion protocol, so we will have to see if he is able to clear it. He did play on Thursday. The Bears played the Thursday night game, so they get extra time. But Khalil Herbert expected to miss multiple weeks with an ankle injury. So Donta Foreman figures to re-enter the picture, but Roschon is probably the guy that you want to add. Again, if you need the running back depth, especially if you have Khalil Herbert, Roschon, 15 to 20% of your fob, you could probably get away with getting Donta Foreman for free or for a very small fob, I guess, inclusion in the waiver claim. With Herbert expected to miss multiple weeks, Roschon looking good in addition to Demercado. So if you have James Conner, if you have Devon Achane, expected to miss multiple weeks, several running back injuries this week, of course, on top of Jefferson, another rough week. Demercado, Roschon, Donta Foreman's probably going to fly under the radar. Jeff Wilson, I would assume, is a guy that people are going to spend 10 to 12% of their fob on. With Achane expected to miss multiple weeks with his knee injury. You figure Demercado is the guy that you still prefer to have over all of them, and he's going to be available in your league for sure. Volume-based RB3. Those are, I guess, those are the larger names. Other guys down the board. If Tajay Spears, if there's a way to stash Tajay Spears, do it. Whether you need the running back help or not, because guess what? Everybody's good. You might not need running back help now. That doesn't mean you're not going to need running back help as soon as next week. If there's a way to stash Tajay Spears, who I believe is still only rostered in about a third of leagues. Last I checked, it's closer to 35, 37-ish percent on Sleeper. I'd have to go back and double check what the number is on Yahoo. But if Tajay Spears is still out there, you're probably going to have to drop at least 6 or 7% of your fob on him because he did get into the end zone on Sunday. But this guy looks good. He is getting more involved than most guys in recent years who had to play behind Derrick Henry. And he looks good. And he looks good out there. He just looks good. If there's a way to stash Tajay Spears, if he's still available, can't stress it enough. If you still got A.J. Dillon rostered, he's on bye this week. Drop him. If you have any one of these other running backs who are now going, who you can stash on IR, Connor, likely Achane, likely Khalil Herbert. If there's a way to get Tajay Spears on your roster and he's not already plucked up, make that happen. Make that happen. I think that covers it from a high level, so we can go ahead and get into questions now. Batty, Alex, what's going on, guys? Good to see y'all. Greg, happy Thursday, or happy Tuesday. Almost said Thursday. Happy Tuesday to you as well. I don't see your badges. Oh no. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let me start with Batty as one of my members. But I will get to everybody. Holding on to Jaleel. Yes. The answer is yes. Javonte hasn't rounded into form yet this year. McLaughlin looks pretty good. And that was a tough matchup on Sunday against the Jets, at least by the numbers. Yeah, you hang on to McLaughlin. Certainly if you have Javonte, but even if you don't, keep him stashed. Javonte Williams has not had a strong game to this point. He's out there, but he's not making a significant impact, at least not yet. Not totally giving up hope that that can't happen later in the season, but right now, we don't have a strong reason to fire Javonte into lineups. Like, I'm leaving him on the bench this week against Kansas City. Most likely. You almost might feel a little bit better about firing up McLaughlin if you have to. Only if you have to. But yes, hang on to him. Hang on to him. Hey, there he is. Appreciate it, Greg. Appreciate the renewal. Appreciate the renewal. Let me get to what you got. You have Laporta. Nice. Laporta's one of the 8 tight ends. I think there's 8. There's 9. Where if you have him, that's set and forget. And whatever else you have, just let him go. I'll be honest, Greg, you're not moving off. Well, when's the Lions bye week? Is it this week? No, it's not this week. They play this week. I'm just trying to look up the Lions bye week. I'm not remembering it off the top of my head. Week 9. Here's the deal. You are starting, Greg, you are starting Sam Laporta until week 9. You are starting Sam Laporta week 6, week 7, week 8, and then you figure out a streamer week 9. Laporta is one of those dudes where I am not stashing another tight end until I absolutely have to. So the best advice I can give in this situation, that goes for anybody. If you've got somebody like Sam Laporta, you're not starting another tight end. I would not drop, or I would drop Hunter Henry. I would not do it for Logan Thomas. I would do it for another running back or wide receiver. And then when week 9 rolls around, we look at the best streaming option and we worry about it then. Laporta has officially put himself, at least in the, over the past month, Laporta has put himself in the conversation where if you have him, you are just starting him. Even with Jameson Williams back, Laporta had, was it his best game of the season? Close, but not quite. But he had 2 touchdowns. He had his first 2 touchdown game. I think we're at the point with Laporta where if you have him, you just fire him up, and if you have a backup tight end, you cast him away for a running back or a wide receiver, and we'll worry about who starts at tight end when Laporta goes on bye in week 9. So, yes to dropping Henry, but do it for a running back or a wide receiver. And appreciate you coming back, Greg. Or re-upping. Much appreciated, man. But hopefully that helps. Yes to dropping Hunter Henry. No for another tight end. Yes for a running back or a wide receiver. Astro, you made a few trades. All right. You traded away Dameon Pierce. You traded away McLaurin. You got Breece Hall. Okay. I like that. You traded away Laporta for Ingram and Kirk. I like those too. I like that as well. I mean, I like Laporta, but you got another guy who you're just going to set and forget in Ingram, and you picked up Kirk, who, you can fire up as a wide receiver too. I like Terry, but you got Breece. Whether it was before, hopefully you got him before the Broncos game and then fired him up because Breece is back, baby. I know it was against the Broncos. They're not good on defense at all. But we have officially entered, I think we were already there. I personally was. You're just starting Breece Hall. He is one of your running backs that you are starting. And we'll figure the rest out later. So I like that. I like those moves quite a bit. Ingram, in the same range of outcomes as Laporta for the most part. Laporta's been better, but Ingram's not too far down. You pick up Kirk, who replaces McLaurin. slight downgrade, but you got Brees Hall. And that's an upgrade from that is the upgrade. That's the upgrade here. And when you when you mix and cook all this together, and the upgrade is that you got the best running back and the best option for the rest of the season out of this shakeup, nicely done. I'm happy with that. Nicely done. I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Also, if Jordan Addison is on waivers, holy hell, yes, go get him. He should not be on waivers. Jordan Addison shouldn't have been on waivers beforehand. Yes, go get Addison. And if you need help figuring out who to drop, let me know. But I like those moves. I do like those moves. Greg, these guys are all available? I mean, I think you have to pick up Drake London. I look, I know you Drake London's on waivers. Or unless you already have him, then unless you already have him and these are your other waiver potential waiver pickups, then you're just gonna fire up London. I like Tajay Spears. But if Drake London's on waivers, you have to pick him up. You have to pick him up. But if you just have him, then you fire him up. He's on waivers. Holy hell, man. Yeah, grab London. Grab London. He should not be on waivers. I like Tajay Spears though. If you of that group, give me Tajay Spears as a stash. I want Tajay Spears on my roster. He is not a guy that I'm trying to play this week, but he is a guy that I want on my bench. If you can find a way, this goes for everybody, whether you need the running back help or not. If Tajay Spears is available and you have a roster spot, say you've got like AJ Dillon who's on bye this week, I'm grabbing Tajay Spears. Get him on your bench. He looks good. He is breaking into that running back rotation with Derek friggin' Henry, and he's looking good with his opportunities. So, yeah. Get Tajay Spears. But that being said, Drake London should not be, for all the frustrations of the Falcons offense, Drake London should not be on waivers. They are frustrating. They are frustrating throwing the football. They are inconsistent. It's probably even conceivable that they are automatic benches when the Falcons are playing on the road. But you have to have Drake London needs to be on a roster. That much I know. Let's see. Batty, you missed the beginning of the streams. So must adds Amari Demercado, the Arizona running back. James Conner out for 4 weeks. He's the top ad this week. Half your fob at least, if you need the running back help. If you don't need the running back help, then 20% of your fob, 25% of your fob, even. You can never have too much running back help, but he's the top guy. Roshan, Donta Foreman, Khalil Herbert's going to miss multiple weeks, and then Jeff Wilson with Devon Achane expected to miss multiple weeks. And then with Justin Jefferson going down, Osborne is a decent option. He'll slot right in. You can also grab Joshua Palmer. He's still available, and now the Chargers are past their bye week. Although Mike Williams is not coming back this year. So those would be the two receivers, Osborne, Josh Palmer. And then for running backs, Demercado, Roshan, Donta Foreman, Tajay Spears. And if you want to, if you're feeling so inclined, Batty or anybody, I went into a little bit more detail off the top if you want to like rewind. So with that, hopefully that helps. I'm gonna keep this moving now. Trade away Brees for Pacheco. I would not. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I'd rather have Brees. He's in a worse situation, but he's the better player. Like I would say by a decent amount, by a sizable margin. I like Pacheco. He runs hard. Um, and he's in a better situation. But no, you hold on to Brees. You hold on to Brees. You hold Brees. You do nothing with Brees other than you fire him up as one of your running backs. Do not trade Brees Hall. As far as Jefferson's trade value, you want to be careful with these. Obviously, the appeal is you get one of the best players in fantasy football at a discount, but of course at the expense of having to wait for him for at least a month. They've had this language where it's like they'll see where he's at, right? They'll like reassess after 4 weeks, leaving the door open that he might not be ready. And also, we're possibly looking at a situation where the Vikings season is spiraling out in front of our eyes. And then, therefore, how likely are the Vikings to push Justin Jefferson to come back if they are well on the outside looking in for the playoff race? I would be awfully careful about acquiring Justin Jefferson. I would need to be at least 4-1. I would need to be at least 4-1. Feeling like I've got a top 3 squad in my league and I can roll the dice on adding him. If I'm 2-3 or even 3-2 and I'm in the thick of it, I'm in the midst of it, and like my margin for error, obviously it's still very early, but my margin for error maybe doesn't feel as wide. I would be awfully careful about trying to acquire Justin Jefferson. First of all, it's a hamstring injury. Right off the bat, in a vacuum, those are tricky injuries to manage during the course of an NFL season. Jefferson suffered this injury smack in the middle of it, or right at the, or at, in close to the second half of the season. Now he's going to miss until he's going to miss week 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we're not going to have him until week 10. I believe the Vikings also have a late bye week. That's another thing we probably want to keep an eye on here. What is the Vikings bye week? I'm looking this up right now. Week 13. That is an awfully tough gray area that we're also going to have to work with. If you're looking to acquire Justin Jefferson, he's already out through week 10. And then you've got week 11 and week 12, and then it's a Vikings bye week. So you're talking about maybe only getting him back for 2 games at best before the bye week. And maybe he's Justin Jefferson. Maybe he's Justin Jefferson for those 2 games where he's giving you 9 for 120 and a touchdown. Maybe he's that. Or maybe he's working his way back from this injury that forced him to miss a month's worth of time. He's not as effective as you expect Justin Jefferson to be right before the bye week. And then it's like, where are the Vikings there in their season? And what are we looking at from potentially getting from Justin Jefferson for the stretch run and the fantasy playoffs in a potential scenario that is coming to fruition where the Vikings are not in the race? We got to be really, really careful about acquiring somebody like Justin Jefferson. So with that being said, yes, his value is down. I am not, I'm not looking to acquire him for that much. Now, if you are offloading him and getting anything of value, unless you're 5-0 or 4-1, you probably want to do that. So here's the scenario that James Cook and Addison for Justin Jefferson, you are getting those 2 guys. If you're 5-0, if you're 4-1 even, and you've got, you scored some points, you've scored a decent amount of points, your team is strong otherwise. If you're 4-1, or better yet, 5-0, and you want to hold on to Justin Jefferson because he's now officially your lottery ticket to a championship, depending on if he's able to come back and be Justin Jefferson, okay, then hold on to him. But if you're 3-2, you're in the thick of it. You could use some depth. You might want to, James Cook and Addison, that might be a package that is worth trying to grab. And maybe you could even act like, well, Justin Jefferson is still Justin Jefferson. Can you squeeze like one more depth piece in? It doesn't have to be a big name. It doesn't have to be a lot. But maybe like throw in one of your low-level guys for like to as a putt sweetener and get a third guy in that trade. Like if they say no, then they say no. But James Cook and Jordan Addison, I know Cook didn't have a good game this past week. It happens. The Jags are tough against the run. Um, we still believe in James Cook for the rest of the season. Addison is a guy who is definitely going to play no matter what happens, whether the Viking season spirals out or not. You know he's going to play. But I mean, with James Cook, last week was his first bad week. He's been a top 24 running back 3 times in 5 games, and in 2 of those 3 games, he was an RB1 and the highest scoring RB2. James Cook and Jordan Addison, if you're like a 3-2 team or worse, I would probably do that. You want to be really careful with Justin Jefferson. He's real dicey right now because if the Vikings season spirals out, and it looks like it certainly could, they might get a win next week against the Bears. But after that, their schedule gets tougher, and they're already not good. They are 1-4. It's shaping up to it's looking like an ugly season in Minnesota. And if they're not playing for anything in November and December, and Justin Jefferson is still working his way back because he's not 100% from what can and often is a tricky injury, a hamstring injury, they're not going to play him. This, of course, is a doomsday scenario. He could play, but the Vikings need to, like, he could be playing weeks 14, 15, 16, 17 after the bye week, but the Vikings need to have a reason to be playing to put their superstar back on the field coming off of a hamstring injury. So, yeah, I probably would take that deal. I probably would. And Greg, yes, London and Spears over those names for sure. Would I drop Cam Akers for anyone, for a guy like say Demercado? Yes, because Demercado's opportunity is wide open, and Akers is at best an RB3, as long as Alexander Madison is healthy. I miscalculated on Cam Akers. Obviously, couldn't have seen a trade coming. He was in the doghouse last year. You don't bank on that necessarily happening again. And he looked good to end the season last year. I guess I could say I got duped by that one. Akers is not necessarily a hold. If you need the running back help, those guys I mentioned are, at least right now, as long as Alexander Madison is healthy, Demercado, Tajay Spears, say Roschon Johnson, yeah, they've got a little bit more short-term value than Akers does right now. Maybe not like Jeff Wilson, but it's close. Presumably, Jeff Wilson is going to get plenty of opportunities if Achane has to miss 4 or 5 games, 3-4 games. So, yeah, if you need the running back help, especially a guy like Demercado, yeah, Cam Akers is probably a drop. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you can get, yeah, if you need the help now, for sure. Grab someone like Demercado. Grab someone like Tajay Spears. I like Tajay Spears quite a bit. Let's see, where are we at? Tony, you're asking where can you improve? Well, you've got the Herbert Keenan stack, so no issues there. Evans is dealing with a hammy. He is coming off his bye week, but that is a little dicey. Henry, Kyron, Kelsey, Montgomery, Bass. I mean, I like Montgomery. It's tough, man, because like Najee, nobody's gonna want Najee. Not for much. You're gonna be selling low. And the same deal with Gibbs. You're going to be selling low on Gibbs, but you have Montgomery, so you probably just want to keep that intact. Until Gibbs, because if one goes down, you have the other. You have Thielen, so you can plug him in over Evans if you need to. Thielen has been a wide receiver 1, and Bryce Young is looking at him a ton. So that's fine. You don't need Stafford. You don't need Stafford. You have Herbert, and Herbert just finished up his bye week. So for me, like, is there somebody who needs a quarterback? Is there somebody in your league that needs a quarterback? Trade Stafford and a piece and either get a better running back or a better wide receiver. I would look around. Is there anybody who really could use a quarterback? Because Stafford's not a bad option, but you don't need him. You have Justin Herbert. You're never gonna. Herbert's past his bye. You're never gonna start Stafford over Herbert. I would look around your league. Who needs a quarterback? Piece Stafford with Evans. Get an upgrade at like a real upgrade at wide receiver. Stafford and sell high on Thielen. Stafford and Thielen get a good option at wide receiver. Something like that. Something like that. I would package Stafford and something and improve at either running and look for an upgrade at running back or wide receiver. But it's going to be dependent on who needs a quarterback. And then if they have a good player that you're interested in, target that player. So maybe, Tony, maybe go around your league, check rosters, see who needs a quarterback conceivably, and go based on that. Find a good piece on their roster and try to get that piece. Stafford plus for an upgrade. That's what I would do. Let's see. I see a couple more members. What's going on, guys? He hate me. Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in. Greg, I would keep if you have Lawrence and Watson. To me, it's like that's just I would keep starting Lawrence and let Watson get healthy. You only start one quarterback, so I don't want to. It's like I have two viable options. I know that Watson is hurt right now. He's dealing with the rotator cuff, so you just keep starting Lawrence, presumably until Watson gets healthy. And if he doesn't, then you can drop him. I would just hang on to what you have right now. Achane is expected to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. So, yes, if you have Raheem Mostert, you might have been thinking to yourself, crap, I need to find another option after week 5. But as it turns out, you can go right back to the well with Raheem Mostert for week 6. He will be joined presumably by Jeff Wilson in the backfield, but Achane is expected to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. As far as Minshew or Watson as your second quarterback, it depends on if Watson is healthy. Which presumably right now he isn't. That being said, in a vacuum, he's still a guy that you probably prefer to start over Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew's a good, viable backup. He should be fine. But if Watson is active, you probably have to fire up Watson. So let's just keep an eye on practice reports. If he's going to give it a go, combined with whatever the vibes are going into the game, like if Deshaun is saying his shoulder feels good, we have no choice but to trust him. And if he's active in that situation, you play him. But if he's not, or if he's playing, but he's less than 100%, he might, the game plan might call for short and intermediate throws. We have to keep an eye on whatever like the potential reports are. If it's anything like if the vibes are pessimistic or if he's ruled out outright, then of course you just go to Minshew. But if Watson is active and if we're getting any type of like shoulders fine reports, we have to start Watson. Have to. At least for now. At least right now. Batty, I'm sorry. I did not see the picture in Discord until now, or I might have just glossed over it. Because folks in here cannot see it, I will check that out this evening, and I will hit you up in Discord. I will send you a message in response. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at that tonight. But thank you for pointing that out. My bad for missing it. Again, I had quite a busy week last week. But I will answer that tonight. All right, where am I at? Um, 16-team league. Should you get Sam Howell off waivers to replace Deshaun Watson? Are you dropping Deshaun Watson? Because I don't think I would do that. I assume, in 16 team, the waiver wire is going to be thin, right? It's going to be thinner than obviously a 12-team league. Um, there's going to be fewer options to choose from. That's a scenario, even in one quarterback. This is one quarterback, of course, if Sam Howell's on waivers. In a 16-team league, I feel like that's a large enough league where I would be okay rostering two quarterbacks if I don't have one of the obvious top options. Um, Watson, in theory, when healthy, is a top 8 option, but right now he's dealing with this shoulder injury. I wouldn't drop him if you're not. Maybe I'm misinterpreting the word replace in this question. If you can add Sam Howell, do it, but I wouldn't do it to. I wouldn't drop Deshaun Watson to do it, because I'm sure in a 16-team league there's another guy on your bench that you can drop for Sam Howell. That being said, yes, if you have Deshaun Watson and it's looking dicey because of this injury coming out of the bye and you need a quarterback and Howell is looking like one of your better options, then yes, pick up Sam Howell. But I wouldn't drop Deshaun Watson. 16 team is deep enough where I think I would be. That's a situation where it's like, yes, it's one quarterback, but I'm fine rostering two quarterbacks here because the depth on the wire is just going to be thinner in 16 teams. I would drop somebody else other than Deshaun Watson, but yes, I would be interested in picking up Sam Howell, who at least we know is not dealing with a shoulder injury. So yes. Oops, I lost my link. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. All right, there we go. I'm back. Let me see. Yeah, so add Sam Howell, yes, but still hold on. Still hold on to Deshaun Watson. Let me see. I think I got all of my members' questions. If I missed any of those, just let me know. But I think I got all of my member questions. And real quick, Astra, just to wrap up, you're dropping Stroud for Addison. Yeah, I mean, yes, I don't want to. Addison should not be on waivers. So yes, hopefully T Higgins comes back and you can keep firing Burrow up with confidence. But I mean, sure, if CJ Stroud is the obvious guy on your bench to drop, I mean, Addison needs to be on a roster, like 100%, especially now. Holy hell, with Justin Jefferson out, Addison. Yeah, he was, for me, he was already a guy that had to be on rosters before the Justin Jefferson injury. Now it's like, yes, whoever the last guy is on your roster, if it's Stroud, yes, drop for Addison. 100%. 100%. Trade Mixon and Kenneth Walker for Derrick Henry and Devontae Smith. Andrew, I would prefer to have a little bit of context here. I just don't know who are your other wide receivers. Devontae Smith is a significant piece. I know he didn't have a big game this past week against the Rams, but he's a top 15 option. So that's nothing to sneeze at. Who are your other, you'd be acquiring Devontae Smith. So who are your other wide receivers? And I guess what I should have asked are, who are your other running backs? If you give up Mixon and Walker and acquire Henry, who else are you working with? It all depends on your, on your depth. In a vacuum, I'm not crazy about that trade because I'm just a little worried about Derrick Henry. He's still Derrick Henry. He can still have his weeks. This is not a good Titans team. This is not a good Titans offensive line. And Tajay Spears is breaking into the mix more than other guys have in the past in the Titans' backfield with Derrick Henry. I would be very cautious about acquiring Derrick Henry, especially with Mixon. Kenneth Walker is past his bye week and has been a touchdown scoring machine. Mixon is still viable. I like Devontae Smith, but I would just need to know like what I would need to know some other context. What are we working with here? What are your other running back options? If you're giving up Mixon and Kenneth Walker, and to that point, who are your other wide receivers? Like which wide receiver is going to your bench if you acquire Devontae Smith? So give me some more context about your team. Give me some more context about your team, Andrew, and I can kind of hopefully I can give a better answer. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. Do I feel okay about London even with Van Jefferson? Yeah, I mean, Drake's on okay. So anybody where if Drake London is on waivers, I know that he's frustrating and it's not his fault. It's the Atlanta Falcons passing offense. London needs to be rostered. He has to. If he's on waivers, you got to get him. You got to pick him up. And I'm not worried about Van Jefferson just because he got traded to Atlanta. Let's put it this way. With Van Jefferson, if we can't rely consistently on Drake London and Kyle Pitts, then we definitely can't rely consistently on Van Jefferson. We're talking about a significant difference in talent. But if Drake London is on waivers, he needs to be on a roster. Yes, he's frustrating. And yeah, he might be an easy guy to bench when the Falcons are on the road. But London needs to be on rosters. He can't be on waivers. There's no way. Do I feel now the first question part of this question was, do I feel strong about him? Like, yeah, it's not, it doesn't feel great, but he is too talented individually to be on waivers. He had a good week this week. Yes, the Falcons were at home. But London needs to be on a roster. If he's on waivers, he needs to be on a roster. Not worried about Van Jefferson just because he went there. Not worried about Van Jefferson. But if London is on waivers, you have to fire him up. And I'm pretty sure the Falcons play at home again this week. You have to start Drake London. You're starting Drake London at home. So, yes, pick him up. Whoever the last guy is on your bench, he's probably not as viable an option as Drake London. So, yes, go get him. Let me see. Where are we at? You have Saquon and Kyron Williams. Should you pick up Jeff Wilson? I mean, it depends on who you're adding, or it depends on who you're dropping, and who your other options are. I mean, in a vacuum, sure, if Jeff Wilson is the best option on waivers, I'd rather have Amari Demercado. I'd rather have probably Roschon Johnson. Well, maybe not more than Roschon Johnson. I'd probably rather have Demercado just because he, in theory, should have that backfield to himself for the next month. Wilson, meanwhile, will be playing, second fiddle to Raheem Mostert. But yeah, if Wilson is is the best option at running back on the wire, then yes, pick him up. It sounds like Achane is going to miss multiple weeks and could be going on IR with this knee injury. Like, yeah, depending on who you would be dropping, yes, grab Jeff Wilson. But if it, depending on who it's for, and who he's potentially replacing, then yeah, that's all dependent on that. It's all dependent on that. All right, let's see. Just got a 12-man team. Um, Walker Swift. Okay, this is oh, Puka. Okay, question is Puka's on the bench. I mean, yeah, there's got to be a way over Ayuk, I guess. I think Ayuk for me is a high-end wide receiver too. Puka has four, even with the return of Cooper Cup, 7 for 71 and a touchdown. Puka is not going anywhere, man. Yeah, he's a low end wide receiver one. I think I hate this, but I think Ayuk is the guy that goes to the bench. Puka has to be in lineups. And I don't want to bench, like, don't get it twisted. I don't want to bench Ayuk. This is why I like starting 3 receiver leagues. I know a lot of leagues still start just 2 wide receivers. Let me ask you guys a question. I'm going to ask y'all a series of questions. You can either listen or you don't have to answer, whatever you feel. Maybe you disagree with me, but just arbitrarily, would y'all rather score? This is like a public service, or this is like a public service announcement, so to speak, in the form of questions. Would y'all rather score more points or less points? Would y'all rather start more players or less players? To me, the default starting lineup in leagues needs to be 3 receivers, not 2. It makes it less fun. And for anybody, like, I get these people, I get like some of my own friends are like, well, the strategy gets taken away. It's like, no, the strategy is in the form of your ability to draft. And then you should have the right to play those players. And Puka's, a waiver pickup, but still managing your team, all that goes into strategy. Not having to decide, like, what I drafted really well. Now I have to decide which 2 good receivers I have to choose from for one starting lineup. The default should be, I encourage anybody whose league only starts 2 receivers to go to their commissioner next year and expand that to 3 receivers. You want to only start 2 running backs? That's fine. I'm okay with that. But it should be 3 receivers and a flex, not 2 receivers and a flex. I just needed to get that rant over. And I see y'all saying it. More points, right? More points is more fun than less points. Starting more players is more fun than starting less players. I knew y'all would be with me on this. I encourage everybody, all of you, go to your commissioner it's too late for the start for this season, but go to your commissioners at the end of the league. If y'all aren't the commissioners myself, I'm the commissioner of like 3 different leagues. So like, I'm like, this is what we're doing. And if y'all don't like it, that's y'all's problem. Like, I promise you guys will be like, oh, this is great once it actually gets to that point. Start 3 receivers. Start 3. I would go to your commissioners, start 3 receivers. That should be a rule change for anybody who still only starts 2 receivers in their leagues. So yes, you could start 4. Yeah, you could start. Okay, so or 2 flex spots. That's fine too. That's probably even better, to be honest. I don't know, man. I just think there should be an extra starting roster spot. There should be an extra. You should be rewarded. To me, it's twofold. You should be rewarded with it for your ability to draft good players. And if you don't draft well, that's where it's like, okay, this is your punishment. Draft better next year. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as learn from this. I don't know. Okay, rant over. So anyway, for me, like Joe's question is, he has to choose between Puka Nacua and Brandon Ayuk. You should be able to start both of those guys, man. I went off on a whole diatribe as a result of that, but I would start Puka over Brandon Ayuk, and I hate the fact that you have to put one of those dudes on the bench. But Puka Nacua needs to be in starting lineups, and that's just how it goes. Yeah. Public service announcement for anybody who only starts 2 wide receivers and a flex. It should be 3 receivers and a flex. Go to your commissioners. Ask them if they want the league to be better next year. and you initiate that. And you initiate that. And if anybody claps back with, well, this is how he's always done it, this is, takes away from strategy. That's not a clapback, by the way. That's a stupid cop out. It's just like your strategy is your ability to draft and manage your team. And if you have a bad draft, that's on you. If I draft a lot of good players, I should be allowed to play all those good players. Anyway, yes, I would plug in Puka and I would take Ayuk out. I hate that, but that's what it has to be. Sometimes there might be weeks where you have to start, where you have to take maybe like DeAndre Swift out of there and just start Walker and Jacobs, and then you can start all three receivers. It's very matchup dependent, but for me, yeah, Puka's got to be in there. Puka's got to be in there. And yeah, I like Betty. That's fine too. 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex. That's fine too. You should not be starting as many dudes as there are on your bench. That is dumb. You should be allowed to start more players. Fantasy is supposed to be fun. You should enjoy being able to score points. I hate the fact that I have a good player on my bench killing it, but also doing nothing for me because I don't have the roster space because of archaic old default starting lineups. Rant over. All right, I'll keep it moving now. Let's see. I got to my members. If anybody, let me know if anybody didn't hear a question. I know ads sometimes run through these streams now. If you think that I missed you, let me know. Go ahead and repost the question. We'll make sure we get it answered. I think I'm at Cameron now. You're giving Javonte Williams and and Drake London. You're getting T. Higgins. You have Bijan, you have Brian Robinson, Charbonnet, Warren. Okay. Wide receivers are Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, more. Okay. And Zay Jones. Got it. So you've been giving up some decent depth, but in theory, you're getting a good wide receiver too. Higgins has only had 1 week this year. He's only had 1 really good week, 2 quiet weeks, and then he missed or 3 quiet weeks, actually, because he was blanked week 1. Blanked week 1, great week 2, 2 quiet weeks, weeks 3 and weeks 4. Well, week 4 was when he got hurt. Week 4 was when he got hurt, right? And they missed week 5. So it's been slow start. It's been a slow start for T. Higgins. But you can get him for Drake London and Javonte Williams. That's not bad. That's not bad. Javonte's been underwhelming. He could still be he still could get to the point where he's a viable running back option later in the season. It hasn't come together for him yet. He's not rounded into form just yet. He doesn't look like the Javonte of old yet. That could happen later in the season. And of course, London is solid some weeks and impossible to trust a lot of the time. If we're operating under the assumption that Joe Burrow is getting healthy, I don't hate that move. Yes, you're giving up 2 pieces for 1. Giving up 2 pieces for 1. But it's not like Higgins suffered a hamstring tear, a soft tissue injury. He fractured a rib. That's going to hurt for probably a month. That's going to be some type of pain tolerance for probably a month. But if he's able to fully heal from it by, let's say, week 10 or 11, which I think week 10 is the Bengals bye, or they're like a week 9 or week 10 bye. I think it's week 10. If he's healthy, Higgins is from week 11 onward, then you have a top 15 wide receiver for the fantasy playoffs. So it'd be a short-term hit for a long-term gain. I guess the other question question I would want to know, Cameron, is what is your record? If you're 4-1, I would probably do that deal. If you're 2-3, struggling along, maybe need the depth for a little bit longer, maybe let's wait and see what the practice reports are for T. Higgins tomorrow before we act. But if you're 4-1 or better yet 5-0, and you're in real good shape, then maybe I do that deal. Okay, 1-4 currently. Okay. Let's hold off for now. I would just tell the person. I would tell the person you're negotiating with, like, I just, or if they're looking for an answer sooner than later. If they're not looking for an answer sooner than later, then don't say anything. But if they're looking for an answer, just be like, I just want to see what the practice reports on T Higgins is before I make this move, because I'm like, you know, I'm 1-4 in acquiring a hurt player, so you're taking on some risk. So I would maybe wait for now. Let's see what the practice reports are for Higgins to tomorrow and Thursday before we act. So I would say let's exercise some patience for now. Just say you want to hang on to your depth for a little bit because yes, you're 1-4, but Higgins is injured and a fractured rib is usually like a month-long thing that he's going to have to deal with. That's what I would say. And if they're impatient, then I'd just be like, all right, well, you move on. I'll make another move if I feel like I have to somewhere else. I would hang on for a little bit. I would wait. Sorry, Batty. I missed this. Would I drop Akers for Brandon Cooks or Osborne if you need the wide receiver help? Yeah. Probably Osborne first. I'd probably go Osborne, then Brandon Cooks. Sorry, I missed that one. I would drop Akers for Osborne. Yes. I would drop Akers for Osborne. Brandon Cooks has been awfully quiet to start this season. He's been awfully quiet. But yes, yeah, pretty straightforward for me, Batty. If you have Akers, you could use some wide receiver help, and Osborne is there. Drop Akers for Osborne. Yes, he's going to run a ton of routes now with no Justin Jefferson for the next month. You would drop Breida, Gabriel for that's fine. That's fine. Drop Breida for Jeff Wilson. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with that. I don't care whether Saquon plays this week or not. I don't care. That's fine. I feel like Breida actually did have a decent day this past week, or on it was against the Dolphins. Maybe I'm misremembering. I am misremembering. He had a good game against the Seahawks on Monday night. That's what it was. Bad game this past week against Miami. Yeah, that's fine. If you want to drop Breida for Jeff Wilson, that's fine. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Definitely good with that. Let's see. What's going on, Warrior? You Pollard, Mostert, McLaughlin, and Najee. Okay. Hawkinson at tight end. Would I claim Justice Hill or Logan Thomas? Definitely not Logan Thomas. You have Hawkinson. You have Hawkinson. You are not worrying about tight end until the Vikings buy, especially Justin. I mean, forget KJ Osborne and Jordan Addison for a second. I mean, Hawkinson's also seeing a boost with no Justin Jefferson as well. So no to Logan Thomas. Outright no. You have TJ Hawkinson. He's not coming out of your starting lineup for anything other than his bye week. You'll worry about that whenever the Vikings bye week is. It's week 13. That's right. You're not ever starting Logan Thomas over TJ Hawkinson. And then, well, what if he gets hurt? We'll worry about that if that actually happens. No to Logan Thomas. As far as claiming Justice Hill, you can. It depends on who you're dropping. Depends on who you're dropping. Like who's the last guy? Who's the last guy on your bench? I see here you have maybe Sutton. You have maybe Josh Reynolds. Yeah, if you want to drop, what did Reynolds do this past week? I know JMO was quiet, but obviously he did make his return. Reynolds had a nice day, 4 for 76 and a touchdown. I missed most of the games this past week. I was out I was at a tailgate and then I went to the Eagles-Rams game. So I missed the morning slate, did not watch football the morning, the early slate, the 1:00 slate. So I missed some of these performances, so forgive me. But okay, Reynolds had a nice game. See if that's sustainable with JMO back. That's right. Amon-Ra also missed, and Jahmyr Gibbs missed. Yeah, if you want to drop If you want to drop one of those guys for Justice Hill, Sutton, or Reynolds, that's fine. That's fine. And it sounds like Amon Ra is probable. The early reports are Amon Ra is probable to return. So no, or so yeah. Um, Reynolds is fine to drop for Justice Hill. I don't know if I'm quite there yet with Cortland Sutton, but it's not great in Denver. So I guess Reynolds. If you want to drop Reynolds for Justice Hill and you want to grab some more running back depth, I'm fine with that. But no to Logan Thomas. You have TJ Hawkinson. You're not taking him out of your lineup until week 13 when it's the bye week, and then we'll worry about the tight end stream then. And yeah, yes, make a mental note, make a real note. I don't care. Schedule something to to remind yourself at the end of the season. If your league starts 2 receivers, hit up your commission, be like, we need to vote on starting 3 receivers. It'll just be what's my argument? It'll make this league better. It'll make this league more fun. There's my argument. I will lawyer up for anybody who needs the support. Just let me know. I will be your lawyer where you lawyer up and we get this done. You just let me know. So yeah, went over this at the top of the show. I did go into it a little bit more if you want to like rewind or start over, whatever have you. But the Cardinal, Amari Demercado is the number 1 waiver claim this week. If you have James Conner, if you just need running back help desperately, maybe you lost Achane, maybe you lost Khalil Herbert. If you need a running back, yes, Demercado is the top waiver claim this week. If you are desperately in need of a running back, whether you have Connor, whether you have Achane, whether you have Khalil Herbert, half your fob, maybe more if you really need the running back depth. If you don't need the running back depth now, you're feeling pretty good about your running backs. Maybe you don't need necessarily a running back, but you're always going to put a claim in because running back depth is always important no matter what your situation is. 15, 17, 18-ish percent of your fob. You can go as high as 20% of your fob on Demercado because you might not need the running back depth this week, but you might need it next week. Running back depth, it changes. It happens quickly it happens quickly in the NFL. Injuries happen any given play. So 15-ish percent of your fob if you're okay at running back on Demercado. Half at least if you lost a running back to injury or just in general are hurting at running back. Yes, he's the top guy. He's the top guy. And also, for anybody who missed it off the top, I like Tajay Spears as a stash as well. If Tajay Spears is available and you have a roster spot and you could use some running back depth, grab Tajay Spears. Demercado first. He's more of a right now guy. He's more of a guy who you can fire up week 6. Spears is a long view guy, a guy to stash for the season. And someone in your league, they traded Eckler for Josh Jacobs. That's fine. I mean, they did it like 2 weeks too late before Josh Jacobs had a couple of nice games. They should have traded Eckler for Jacobs when they were 0-3 or 0-2. Probably 0-3. Because then at that point, Eckler's close. Your league mate should have made that trade when they were 0-3 because Jacobs didn't have a good couple of first weeks to start the season, and Eckler had at that point missed 2 games and was at least closer to a return, whereas Jacobs was like not playing well just yet. It wasn't until I think week 4 where Jacobs put like a couple of good weeks together. They should have made that trade when they were 0-3. It's fine, but also like if you're 0-5, I hate to say it, but like now we're at the point where your season is really in trouble. you might be killed with injuries, or maybe you just didn't draft a good team. But if you're 0-5, your odds are now officially pretty long. You're 0-4. That's one thing. Maybe you get some guys back from injury. You can go on a little run. All you need to do is like go 500. Well, cut, a game or two over 500 the rest of the way. We see it all the time in fantasy football leagues. There are teams like the last couple of teams that make the playoffs could be a game under 500 on the season. We see that happen all the time. If you're 0-4, you could come back from that, especially if you're starting to bounce back with injury or, you get guys back healthy. 0-5, it's really dire straits. Now we have officially kind of hit the part of the season where if you're 0-5, you're probably toast. So I wouldn't say it's a bad trade for him in a vacuum. It's just you should have done that he should have done that 2 weeks ago or they. I don't want to assume don't want to. Oh, you said for him. Yeah. Yeah, he should have made that trade 2 weeks ago. It's probably just too little too late for him. And whoever got Eckler, yes, Eckler's coming back this week. That's great. But Jacobs is rounding into form too. I mean, it's an RB1 for an RB1. It's a personal preference. And Eckler is a little dicier, right? Because he is the one who suffered the injury. Jacobs hasn't had to miss a game yet. But I mean, yeah, they made that trade 2 weeks too late. I mean, what are you gonna do? Wouldn't say it's a terrible trade, but if you wait until you're 0-5 to make trades, you're probably done. You're probably already done. And then, okay, as far as a follow-up here with this start question. So with start sit questions, I can try to take them today. I'm just going to caveat my answer today is I can't guarantee it's going to be the same as if we talk about this on Saturday and Sunday after we get through practice reports and all that. It sounds like Amon-Ra is expected back this week. So that makes, and with Jameson Williams back, I know Josh Reynolds had a nice game week 5, but with Amon-Ra expected back, Jameson Williams is now a week. He's got a week under his belt. He's back. Jahmyr Gibbs, if he's able to come back, that makes Josh Reynolds less appealing. As far as Javonte, he practiced today, so he's presumably coming back. So Jaleel McLaughlin is a stash, but if Williams is back, then we can't play him. So if you're able to come back, I said Saturday and Sunday. This is the Thursday night game. If you're able to come back Thursday when we know definitively, I'll have a stream. I will stream Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, a couple hours before Thursday Night Football between the Broncos and the Chiefs. So I will be here for any final start sit thoughts if you're able to make it. But I guess in a vacuum in this situation, I guess McLaughlin is maybe your moonshot play. And maybe Reynolds is a safe play. Like if Jahmyr Gibbs is out and, maybe Jameson Williams is still coming along slowly. I guess McLaughlin might be like an all or nothing play, even if Javonte goes, which it sounds like he will. It's tough, Warrior. If you're able to come back on Thursday, we might be able to try to sort this out a little cleaner. Just like when we know if Javonte Williams is definitely active. Then we can decide, is Jaleel McLaughlin worth the swing for the fences in a tough matchup? But if you don't want to do that, if Javonte's active, then maybe you go Reynolds, I guess. It's not a great matchup for Sutton by the numbers. Although they will be throwing the ball a ton. I guess that's the thing for Sutton. The Broncos are going to have to throw the ball, assuming the Chiefs handle their business at home. It's tough. So maybe actually Sutton is maybe your floor play, now that I think about it. Maybe Sutton's your Sutton could be the play because of volume. Derrick Henry for Jalen Waddle. If I'm getting Waddle, yeah. If I'm getting Derrick Henry, I'm awfully dicey about that. If I'm getting Waddle, yes. And if I have other running backs that I can rely on. I don't know who your other running backs are. But I'm not crazy about giving away a 24, 23-year-old, really good, really strong option to wide receiver in Jalen Waddle on a great offense for a 29-year-old running back in Derrick Henry, who is still good, but is officially prone to bad, you know, the Titans are going to have bad games on offense. And I feel like it's more likely to happen on the road. Derrick Henry's for me, he's less trustworthy. It's harder week to week to trust him than it is in years past, especially with the emergence of Tajay Spears. So if I'm getting Waddle, sure. If I'm getting Henry, nah. If I'm getting Henry, nah. Not as enthused about acquiring Henry. But if I'm getting Waddle, sure. Let's see. Dynasty Superflex. Would I trade Russ for Treylon Burks? Are you contending? If you're contending, then no. You need the quarterback depth. And Russ might even start for you. I don't know what Are you contending? How many quarterbacks do you have? How many wide receivers do you have? If you're rebuilding, if you're retooling, then sure, take on Treylon Burks. If you're competing, then no way. Unless you've got 3 awesome options at quarterback and you want, if you've got 3 awesome options at quarterback and you just want a young wide receiver to, kind of have on your roster to, as he develops and gets game experience or, hopefully gets into a better situation where maybe the Titans find a quarterback of the future eventually, and DeAndre Hopkins is only there for the short term, so Burks is maybe a good long-term move. It all depends. Okay, it says yes, you are contending. Yeah, man, nah, I cannot. No, then hang on to Russ. In Superflex, quarterback depth is like running back depth. Hang on to Russ. And I know it's gross, but the numbers aren't bad. Denver stinks, but they're not going to not play Russ. They're paying him a ton of money. They made a colossal trade to get him. No matter how bad it gets, they're not going to go to who's their backup, Brett Ripien. This is a situation where even if the Broncos suck, and they suck, sorry, but the Broncos stink, they're going to play Russ. They're paying him a gajillion dollars, and they gave up the farm to get him. So, yeah, no, Ryan, you hang on to Russ. Whether he's one of your top 2 options or not, you hang on to him. In a contending situation, you hang on to him. What's going on, Hunter? Good to see you, man. What's going on, Fortune? Good to see you guys. Hope everybody had good week 5s. And if not, let's course correct. Let me get to my member guys, and then I will continue to talk shop on everybody else. I see everybody's questions. Sit tight, Warrior, Jack, Lucas, SK. Sit tight. I see y'all. I will get to everybody. Jefferson's value in a keeper league, Hunter. It depends on the cost. It depends. Can you spend a first-round pick next year to keep him? It depends on the cost of Justin Jefferson. Or are you thinking about trading him away? Are you thinking about trying to acquire him? I would be awfully cautious about trying to acquire Justin Jefferson in redraft. I did. I gotta check the timestamp of when I went on my spiel about Justin Jefferson. But in redraft or keeper where you are competing, I would be awfully careful about acquiring Justin Jefferson. He's already going to miss until week 10. The Vikings have a week 13 bye. If this hamstring is taking longer to heal, which we're not going to know until later, several weeks from now. If this hamstring injury is lingering and taking longer to heal than expected, which is totally possible with hamstring injuries, we see it all the time, coupled with with the week 13 bye, coupled with the fact that the Vikings are not good, there's an awful lot of risk for the rest of Justin Jefferson's season and whether or not the Vikings ultimately just don't shut him down if they are out of the playoff race, which is totally conceivable given their 1-4 start and the next couple of matchups that they have coming up outside of the Bears. We got to be awfully careful. Now, if you are trading Justin Jefferson and you're getting something of value back, you probably want to seriously consider that. Unless you're 4-1 or 5-0. If you're at the top of the food chain and you're sitting pretty and you can afford to take the risk and you want to give up some good depth that you've traded for drafted, acquired through waivers, whatever. If you want to trade some good depth because you're 5-0 and you can afford that hit to take the risk of acquiring the best player in fantasy football in Justin Jefferson, then do it. But if you're 3-2, 2-3, 1-4, you're not dead, but you're on the outside looking in, or you're in the thick of it and your margin for error is thin, I'd be awfully cautious about trying to acquire Justin Jefferson. I would be awfully cautious about trading away depth for Justin Jefferson if I'm 2-3 or worse. You're 5-0. Hell yeah, dude. Nice. If you're 5-0, you have him. See, if you have him, this is a scenario where I would probably hold him. Because you can roll the dice that he comes back and is still Justin Jefferson. If you can get good value, you can afford, you're trading Hunter from a position of power, like from a position, you have an advantage because you're 5-0, you're not feeling any sense of urgency to make any moves. You're killing it right now. You're cruising. You're feeling good. You only need to win like 2 more games rest of the season to pretty much secure a playoff spot. And given the odds with, already being 5-0, you're likely that you'll handle your business. You're negotiating from a position of power. I wouldn't give up Justin Jefferson unless you're getting, say, I'll just throw like Jalen Waddle out there, who had one nice game last week, but has been kind of quiet otherwise. Now, somebody might not want to do that. But I would ask for something really nice. I would ask for a good piece. And if somebody who's like 3-2 or 2-3 is trying to get Justin Jefferson, then ask for 2 of their decent players. Ask for an RB2 and a wide receiver 2. Might not get it. You might not get it. Somebody might say, hell no, I'm not doing that. Justin Jefferson's hurt. I'm interested, but I'm not that interested. He's a risk. Well, guess what? You're 5-0. You don't need to necessarily do anything. But if anybody else wants to roll the dice on Justin Jefferson, I would ask for a good amount. You are negotiating from a position of power. 5-0, not feeling any sort of desperation. I would ask for Waddle. I would ask for T. Higgins and maybe like a, I don't know, say like a Justice Hill or whatever, or some type of RB3 that can give you some running back depth. Higgins is hurt as well. He's going to, again, people might not go for these. I'm just giving you idea. Like, ask for something good. If you're in a position for a power, which you are, ask for something good. And if somebody's not willing to do it, then it's just like, all right, well, I'm 5-0, so I'm just going to hang on to him and hope that he can come back and be Justin Jefferson. It's not inconceivable. It's dicier. It's riskier given the situation with the Vikings. They're not good. And if they're out of the playoff race by the time Jefferson's healthy, it's not inconceivable that they just shut him down. We've seen this happen all the time. We see this happen all the time where bad teams with great players who got hurt, they just don't play them because there's no reason to risk it. We see this happen all the time. So I would ask for a decent amount, given that you're not necessarily, if you're 5-0, you built a good team. Jefferson's a big part of that, but you built a good team. Yeah, I would ask for like a Jalen Waddle, a Brandon Ayuk. He had a quiet game this past week. Um, hell, see if the Puka person is. I know Puka had a really strong game again, but if the person who has Puka is worried that Cooper Cup is back, like even though they shouldn't be, like ask for Puka. Just be like, and they probably in a keeper league they probably won't do that. Puka was dirt cheap to acquire this year in keeper league, so they probably won't do that. But like, yeah, ask for something nice. I would ask for something good. And yes, Fortune wheels up on Addison. I mean, in in spite of what all I just said about Justin Jefferson, I mean, Addison's healthy, and no matter what, even if the Viking season spirals out, Addison's a rookie. He needs to get reps. He needs experience. He's gonna play. The only concern with Addison is something that's out of his control, which is does the Viking season hit the breaking point where they actually do trade Kirk Cousins, which I don't think is going to happen. It could, but they would need to like lose the next 2 or 3 games. And Kirk Cousins, who is, I think, a guy that we can consider he likes his rigid regimen, he probably is not going to want to get traded. I think he likes where he is in Minnesota. He's close to home. He has his regimen. He has his routine. He's got a nice house, right? We saw that on quarterback. Cousins has a nice house. He's got he likes his routine. He likes doing things a certain way. I don't know that he's going to want to necessarily have to uproot to go to a better situation. He might, like the competitor in him might want to do that, but given all the parameters of what it would cost the Vikings as far as as far as a cap hit for him not being on the roster if they trade him, plus how Cousins is as a player and how he likes his routine, that's the only thing. Do the Vikings trade him if their season spirals out? It would behoove them to. But Kirk Cousins has a full no trade clause, so he may just put the kibosh on any of that. He might say no. Which means Addison stays completely fine. And I mean, there's no reason for him to come off the field. So yeah, I would say he's a strong wide receiver too in Jefferson's absence, just based on his floor. So yeah, I mean, Addison needs to be in starting lineups. Addison needs to be in starting lineups. 100%. But hopefully that helps. Hunter, Fortune, good to see you guys. Let me get back to these other questions. Thoughts on JMO? Jameson Williams is worth stashing. He was the 12th overall pick in the draft. He hasn't done anything thus far. He's got one big play to his credit last year, and it came off of broken coverage. That being said, the upside and talent is still through the roof with Jameson Williams. He's worth stashing. You can't play him right now. But yes, he is worth stashing. 100%. 100% he is worth stashing. But again, it's a loaded question. Like, who else is on the wire? What does your team need? Just keep in mind, everybody, and this just goes for anyone. Like, is any one player worth stashing? They could be for your team specifically, but there could be somebody else on waivers who is a better stash for you. Like if Tajay Spears is out there and your wide receiver depth is good, I'd rather have Tajay Spears than Jameson Williams. But every situation is different. In a vacuum, yes, Jameson Williams is worth stashing. In a vacuum, yes, he is worth stashing. All right, I got a rank question for this week. Okay. Jack, I don't know if you heard my rant earlier, but man, we need to talk to our commissioners, man. We need to expand this from where you start 2 wide receivers to you start 3 receivers. You should not have to make this choice. You should be able to start all these dudes. You should be able to start all these guys. Um, that being said, Devontae Smith gets the Jets on the road. That's a tough spot. The Saints get who's New Orleans playing this week? And then I think Ayuk gets the Browns on the road. That's a bit of a tougher matchup, but Ayuk has been really good. Um, Olave gets Houston on the road. That is a tougher matchup by the numbers, but it's Chris Olave. I would probably rank them, Jack, in the order you have them. Olave 1, Smith 2, Ayuk 3. I don't want to bench Brandon Ayuk. I don't want to bench any of these guys. But tentatively, I guess I would say Olave and Devontae Smith are the top two guys here. Um, Devontae Smith does have a tough matchup. DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, but Devontae Smith is proven to be good enough to beat any matchup. He didn't have a good game this past week. It was A.J. Brown. It was Dallas Goedert for the Eagles this past week. It was not Devontae Smith, but it can be Devontae Smith for the Eagles any given week. Can be Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers any given week. It is a tough matchup by the numbers for all of these guys, but I guess I would rank them. They're all in the same tier. I guess that's how I would have them ranked, but it's close. If you missed it, Jack, earlier, I was encouraging everybody, go to your commissioners at the end of the season. If you still only start 2 receivers in a flex, and lobby for starting 3 receivers and a flex instead of 2 receivers and a flex, or 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and 2 flexes. Y'all should have the luxury of being able to start your players that you were able to draft and or acquire in trades. And I feel strongly about that. I don't think 2 starting receivers is enough, given the number of players that every team drafts. Everybody should be going to the commissioners. If we only start 2 receivers, just ask the simple question. Do we want to make fantasy football more fun? Do we want to make our lineups and our league more fun? It's pretty simple. If the answer is no, then we shouldn't be playing. But if the answer is yes, then we should be starting 3 receivers. You should be able to start all 4 of those guys with 3 receivers and a flex. I guess I would say Ayuk to the bench. But I hate that. I hate that I have to make that call. You should all be able to start 3 receivers. 3 receivers and a flex, or 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and 2 flex. There should be more players in your starting lineup. And I feel strongly about that. Yes, I talk Dynasty. Happy to do so. And I see your question, so I'll go ahead and get to it. Would I trade CD for Puka and a second-round pick in 2024 that is projected to be early? That's wow. Look, the ascension of Puka Nacua, man. Like, how far we've come in just a month's time. Like, my first inclination is no. Maybe I'm giving, I want to continue to give love to the guy who's been there, done that in CD. Puka's stock is through the absolute roof right now. I think I would still rather have CD Lamb. It's a fair trade. Lucas. Like, it is a fair trade. You give up CD, you acquire Puka and the second round pick, which it's projected to be early. So you're going to get a good player, like say like a top 14, 15 player. It's a good trade. It's a fair trade. I think I have to give the edge to CD. Continue to give the edge to CD for now. Puka's ascension is incredible, but I don't think we can quite put him in that tier just yet. He's up there for sure. Puka has already ascended to being a top 15 Dynasty wide receiver, and maybe even better than that. Maybe he's top 12 in Dynasty, but I think CD is top 5. And so for me, if I have a top 5 option and I'm downgrading to what I think is a top 12 to 15 option, picking up a second round pick, that's but I think I'd rather still have CeeDee. I think I'd rather still have CeeDee. It's a fair trade, but I think I'd still rather have CeeDee. Let's see. 10-team PPR league. Montgomery and Tutu for Devontae Adams. I think I'd rather have yeah, see, it all depends on your roster. In a vacuum, I think I'd rather have Montgomery. Dude is on absolute fire right now, and Detroit has a top 3 offensive line, maybe a top 5 offense in general, top 6 or 7 offense. Um, and Montgomery is spearheading that right now, at least from the run game perspective. And now, and Tutu is a throw-in, but Tutu's a throw-in, but I mean, it's still decent depth because the Rams traded Van Jefferson. At least we can say definitively Tutu is the team's wide receiver 3. Now it's a distant wide receiver 3 with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, dominating the targets. But I think I'd already have Montgomery potentially straight up for Devontae Adams. Tutu as a throw-in. I think I'd rather have Monty. Devontae Adams is awesome, but I think I'd rather have Montgomery. Unless you're loaded, or unless if you're trading away Montgomery, unless you're absolutely loaded at running back and you could use a wide receiver, then sure. But in a vacuum, I'd rather have Montgomery. SK, I did miss your question. My apologies. Trade Swift for Amon-Ra or Nico. I mean, if you can trade, depends on the scoring. But if you could trade DeAndre Swift for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think you have to do that. If it's standard scoring, then maybe keep Swift. But if it's half or full PPR, if you can turn DeAndre Swift into Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have to do that. Have to do it, but I think I would. If you've got good running backs, if you've got good other running backs and you can get a wide receiver 1 in Amon-Ra, I would do that trade. Nico is good. I like Nico. I think I'd rather have Swift. If the offer is I will give you Nico Collins and I give up DeAndre Swift, I'd rather have DeAndre Swift. Sorry, I'm dealing with some allergies. I'd rather have DeAndre Swift than Nico Collins, but I'd rather have Amon-Ra than DeAndre Swift. So if you can make that happen, yeah, I would do that. If you can do that, you've Eckler and Spears. Okay, then who are your other wide receivers? Like, how badly do you need Amon-Ra? If that's the case, maybe you need to hang on to Swift if your wide receivers are good. Let me know who your other wide receivers are, and I will follow up. A rate team question. I see you have Herbert past his bye, so that's really good. Looks like you have the Keenan Allen stack with him, so that's really good. Saquon, Mixon, Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell's probably a drop. Keenan, Zay, tank at wide receiver. Are you hurting at wide receiver? I would try to trade Mixon for, well, maybe you try to trade. You take one of those running backs and you trade them for a wide receiver 1. To me, if you want to trade Saquon and you can get, I don't know, you can still ask for a lot from Saquon Barkley, even though he's injured right now. But the expectation is that he comes back. But if you can turn Saquon into, I don't know, Chris Olave, Calvin Ridley, it's probably asking too much. But he is expected back soon from this injury. I would take one of those running backs and ask for a wide receiver 1. You need wide receiver help badly. Zay Jones and Tank Dell are not going to get you through this season as your wide receiver 2 and 3. Spot starts? Sure. The whole season? No. I would take Saquon or Mixon or Jacobs, and I would get a wide receiver one for one of those guys. Yeah. And then, yeah, you can alternate between Kincaid and Jonnu Smith at tight end, depending on the matchup. Jonnu might be a decent play this week with the Falcons at home. Um, Elijah Mitchell's a drop for whatever running back is on the waiver wire, whether it's Demercado, whether it's Spears, whether it's Roshan Johnson, whether it's Jeff Wilson. Elijah Mitchell is a drop for any of those guys easily. And then I would take either Saquon or Mixon or Jacobs, one of those three, and I would trade them for a wide receiver one, a bona fide, clear cut wide receiver one. That's what I would do. Or a really good wide receiver and a running back three just to get some running back depth back. You could do that as well. You could do, one of either Saquon Mixon or Jacobs for a wide receiver two and a running back two, or maybe a top 15 wide receiver and a running back three. Would do that. SK, just to wrap up the thought process here. So, Eckler, Swift, Najee, Spears, give up Swift to potentially to get Amon Ra, pair with Olave and Thielen. You still have Eckler and Najee. Okay. Yeah, it's a little tough. I mean, yeah, with Eckler having missed that time, that definitely hurt you. And Najee is impossible to trust. You could. I do think in a vacuum, Swift for Amon Ra is an upgrade for you. So I guess that's fine. And you might as well, if you're 0-5, you might as well roll, roll the dice, right? You might as well take a shot. I think objectively or arbitrarily, like Amon Ra is an upgrade from DeAndre Swift in a vacuum, like all things equal. So sure, if you can turn DeAndre Swift into Amon Ra St. Brown, I'm fine with that. You might as well take a shot. And I think Tajay Spears is a fine, screw it. Let's plug him in and see what happens. Because the Titans are going to be in a lot of games where they're losing. Who do they play this week? Home against Baltimore? Yeah, they're probably not going to win that game. Baltimore's going to have a lead. Well, I mean, they're at home, so that's an equalizer. But Baltimore's a better team than Tennessee. Spears is going to get some work. Yeah, I would do that, SK. I would say, go ahead. Upgrade from Swift to Amon Ra. I do think that's an in a vacuum upgrade, and you have nothing to lose. So yes, go for it. If you can make that happen, I would do that. Let's see. And Lucas, just following up, you are rebuilding. I mean, how old is CD at this point? He's still only 24. For me, CD can be a hold in a rebuild. And you have Bijan. Yeah, I would hold CD Lamb. I would hold CeeDee Lamb. He's a top 5 wide receiver for Dynasty. He's still only 24 years old. I know, right now it's been a little up and down, but CD is a top 5 or 6 option. Puka's not quite there. He hasn't entered that territory just yet. His ascension is insane, but he's not there quite yet. Not there quite yet. And then just to wrap up the thought process there, you have Bijan, you have CD. Do you trade Bijan for Christian Watson, a 24 first and 2 seconds? It's like it's not an unfair package, It's not an unfair offer, but I don't think I want to give up Bijan for that, even in a rebuild. It's a fair package. But even in a rebuild, Bijan's still only 21. He's going to be good for 4 or 5, probably 5, 6 more years, maybe even more. He might be, you hope that, you obviously hope that all things break his way, but in an ideal world, in a vacuum, Bijan's going to be a top 3 running back for the next 6 or 7 years. Hopefully at least the next 4. I like Christian Watson, and a pick haul is always nice. But if you're not getting Christian Watson and 2 firsts, then I don't want it. It's got to be Christian Watson and 2 firsts. So I would hold Bijan even in a rebuild. He's still only 21. He's an exception with running backs. Generally speaking, you don't want to hold running backs in a rebuild. You want to move off of them. But Bijan is an exception to the rule. We're hoping and expecting top 3 running back play for the next 6 or 7 years. At least top 5. So I would hold. Watson, a first and 2 seconds. It's a good offer. It's a good package. It's very fair. I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to give up Bijan, even in a rebuild. Yeah, I would hang on. I would hang on to him. Let's see. Where am I at? Appreciate everybody's patience. I promise I will get to everybody. I already did skip over one question. Apologies, SK. So if you think I skipped your question, let me know. I think I got my order down. But I promise I'm getting to everybody. Appreciate everybody's patience. Let's see. I got the question about the Montgomery and Tutu trade. I would hold I would prefer Montgomery slightly over Devontae Adams. Should you trade Gibbs and Nico for Jacobs? Yes. I mean, I probably would. Depends, of course, on who are the other wide receivers you're relying on. But in a vacuum, yeah, you're upgrading from Jahmyr Gibbs to Josh Jacobs, and that costs you Nico Collins. As long as your running backs aren't bare bones or your wide receivers aren't bare bones, then yes. And even if they are, honestly, you probably should just do that deal. If you can get Josh Jacobs for Gibbs and Collins, yes, do the trade. Yes, get Josh Jacobs. You can get Josh Jacobs for Jahmyr Gibbs and Nico Collins. Yes, do that deal. Yes, do that deal. Drop Cooks for Osborne. Yes. Well, I mean, 100%. Osborne's got a huge opportunity ahead of him now for at least the next month. Cooks has been underwhelming. Another quiet game. Another quiet game against San Francisco. Cooks has done nothing to give us any reason to hang on to him in 10 or 12 team redraft leagues. Cooks is a drop, especially for somebody like Osborne. 100% put the waiver claim in. No need to hang on to Cooks. And you have Diggs, just to wrap up G-Saw, Diggs, Puka, DJ Moore. Yeah, you can. Yes. If you can pull that off, yes, do it. If you can pull that off, do it. And then Steven question, yes, drop Cooks, add Osborne, 100%. Even if you don't start KJ Osborne, if Cooks is the drop, do it. Let's see. Jonathan's 4-1. Guy in your league lost everybody. Holy hell. So, yeah, this is the right level of thinking. If you're 4-1 or you're 5-0, you're sitting pretty. Your team is good. You've got strong depth. Yeah, this is your opportunity. Trade some of that depth for a potential, upside league winning play that could really benefit you down the road because you can afford to, kind of roll the dice for those big time players because you've collected wins already. You're 4-1, you're sitting pretty, you're coasting to the playoffs. You only need to get a couple more wins to secure your spot over the course of the next 9 weeks. Probably only need like 3 more wins over 9 weeks to ensure that you get a playoff spot. I mean, grab Achane for Pierce and Michael Thomas. I like Jones. I like Walker. I like Montgomery. I mean, as long as you're not losing too much wide receiver depth by giving up Michael Thomas, like, yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, go for the slate busting. Go for the upside play. I like that aggressive move. You can afford to wait on Achane to get healthy, to get right. I like that line of thinking. Yes, I'm good with that. I'm good with that, Jonathan. If you have your 4-1, depth is good, and you can get a guy like Achane, and you can sit and wait on him, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. No, I like it. I like it. You can afford to try to grab that slate busting ceiling play in Devon Achane. I'm good. I'm good with that line of thinking. I'm good with doing that. And yes, Mako, I do. Yeah, I do answer trade questions. So if you have one, let me know. I don't see one yet from you, but if you have one, yes, let me know. And then this is a start 2 at the flex. So I will just letting everybody know. I will answer start sit questions, and this one includes Cortland Sutton, who plays on Thursday night. So I will answer. But if you have any start sit questions, come back Thursday before the Thursday game. I will host a stream at 6 p.m. Eastern. We can get some, like, maybe more concrete, definitive answers based on maybe who's healthy, who's in, who's not. And I will be able to give you my best thought process, advice, whatever have you, for Saturday, Sunday streams for any players that aren't involved in Thursday night football. But I will answer start sit questions, but I can probably give you a better, more thought out answer once we have practice reports for this week and we know injuries and all that good stuff. But between Marquise Brown, Breece Hall, Chris Godwin, and Cortland Sutton, you got to start Breece Hall. I know it's against the Eagles, tough matchup, but at home, we got to fire up Breece Hall. We got to fire up Breece. No more restrictions for him. Had a strong week against the Broncos. Much tougher matchup against the Eagles, but we're firing up Breece Hall. As far as the other option, I like Godwin. And sorry, my allergies are bugging me a little bit. I like Godwin. Rock solid, super consistent. Marquise Brown has been super consistent. Sutton had a couple of good weeks to start the season. What did he do yesterday? Or excuse me, on Sunday? He was quiet against the Jets in a bad matchup. But he was good the first 4 weeks of the season, or he was solid the first 4 weeks of the season. I would probably play either Godwin or Hollywood over Sutton. And so for me, G-Soccer, I would say come back on the weekend if you can, either Saturday or Sunday, and we decide between Marquise Brown and Chris Godwin. But I would probably start either. I just don't know who I prefer. Maybe Godwin, slight edge to Godwin. I don't think I'm starting Sutton from this group. I'm definitely starting Hall from this group. I got to think about Marquise Brown and Chris Godwin over the course of the week. If you can't join me, drop a comment on any video or ask the question again on any video later in the week. You guys can join me in Discord if you're not in Discord. Second link in the description of this stream and all the videos on my channel. You can join the Discord. You can ask questions over there. I will try to be a little bit more attentive and detail oriented with my members, but I will try to help the general public out there in Discord as well. So Hall for sure, and then I'm between Marquise and Godwin. Maybe Godwin, but we gotta see how this week shakes out. Should you trade Kirk Cousins for Puka? Is this a super flex league? That's the only way that there's the only viable explanation. I mean, if you if you have other quarterback options and it's a super flex league, then I mean, sure, yes, get Puka. But if it's a super flex league and you don't have other viable quarterback options, then you might probably need to keep Cousins. It depends on what you need. If it's a super flex league, then Cousins is significantly more valuable, which makes me believe that that's the situation for this league. But I guess I just need some context here. If it's super flex, then depends on how needy you are at quarterback. I can't imagine this is a one quarterback question. But if it is, then I mean Puka Nakua absolutely all the way, without question. Parker, is Kyle Pitts on waivers? You got to pick him up. You have to add Kyle Pitts. I know that Kyle Pitts is infuriating and frustrating and difficult to trust. And any given week could just go for 2 for 20. But he's a great talent that I think you need to keep betting on, especially when the Falcons play at home. And the Falcons are at home this week against Washington. Yes, drop Hunter Henry for Kyle Pitts. He's incredibly frustrating. So is Drake London, but he has to be rostered. Sometimes talent just is able to break through, and it happened for Pitts this past Sunday. So, yes, drop Hunter Henry for Kyle Pitts, 100%. Yeah, Kyle Pitts needs to be on a roster, and he probably needs to start this week. He's playing Washington at home. It's not going to feel good, but you got to probably fire him up. Sorry. Let's see. Greg, I see you got another question. You're making a run at London and Spears. Both of those guys over Moss for me. Yeah, both of those guys over Moss. I know Moss had a huge game, but like it's only a matter of time before the Colts start giving Jonathan Taylor his touches. They just signed him. They just extended him. Taylor is a better player than Zach Moss. It's only a matter of time before Taylor takes that backfield back, presumably anyway. Sorry, everybody. I know I've said it a couple times. The allergies are bugging me a little bit today. You gotta, I would London and Spears over Moss. We got to deprioritize Zach Moss, even though he had a good day yesterday. They're gonna give Jonathan Taylor the ball eventually. They just signed him. Yeah, they just signed him. Let's see. SK, I got you. Mike and Parker, I got you guys. Cap, what's going on, Cap? Do you pick up Chris Brooks? Is this he's the running that's the Dolphins running back. No. I would in 12 team, I would rather have Spears, which it looks like you maybe already have. It looks like you already have Spears, maybe. So nicely done. I like stashing Spears, but Spears, I mean, I would Jeff Wilson over Chris Brooks. It's only 12. You say it's a 12 team, so I can't imagine like benches are not that deep. There's got to be some decent names on the wire. I'm not chasing Chris Brooks. I mean, obviously Demercado. If Demercado is available, he's the top guy. I prefer Tajay Spears to Donta Foreman, but he's viable too with Khalil Herbert's injury. I like Jeff Wilson over Brooks. If Roshan is out there, I'm okay with Roshan. Jordan Mason, I mean, I'm fine with Jordan Mason. He might already be rostered. Um, there's a lot of guys I'd rather like, depending on who's available. There's a lot of guys I'd rather have than Chris Brooks, and I would rather have Spears than Foreman. Spears looks good, and he's involved. It didn't take an injury for Spears to get involved. It's taking an injury for Donta Foreman to get involved. Spears is already involved. I'd rather have Spears. I would 100% rather have Spears. So, not Chris Brooks, but I definitely prefer Spears to Foreman. Let's see. I got SK's questions. What's going on, random kid? Um, where can you improve? I mean, this looks fine. You have Eckler coming back, so that's good. You have Brees and Mostert. You want to start both of those guys, especially with Achane missing time, most likely with this knee injury. Chase was Chase on Sunday. Devontae's. No, this looks good, man. There's not much, and I'm not trying to cop out to keep it moving with the questions. This is a good team. You got a top 7 option at tight end in Laporta. You picked up Puka. Chase is Jamar Chase. Devontae Smith is, I know he had a down week, but he's a top 15 option any given week. Eckler's back. Brees Hall is back. Like, he's rounding into form. No more restrictions from the Jets as far as workload. And Mostert is getting his opportunity back with Achane's knee injury. I think you're fine. I mean, I don't know if you're maybe only 2-3 or 1-4 because you didn't have Eckler. Chase has been quiet. Maybe you're only 1-4. I mean, this is a team that I think just needed to get healthy and just needed to kind of healthy and from the perspective of Austin Eckler and just kind of get right in the form of Jamar Chase. I think you've got other pieces here. I think you're all right. Like, I really do. If you're 0-5, I'm sorry. Hopefully it's not the case. But if you're 1-4, Eckler's coming back. Brees is the guy. Mostert's going to be the dude again with no Achane. I mean, you fire all 3 of those guys up if you can, and then you have Chase, Devonta, Puka. Yeah, I don't think I'm not trying to cop out here. I think you're good. I don't think you need to do anything, even if you might have maybe your record's not great. I think you have the pieces already to turn it around. I think you're fine. I really do. I think you're okay. I don't know what your record is, but you've got good players. I would not panic. Maybe you're not panic. I think you're fine. I don't think you need to improve that much. Like I like the options. I like the depth. No, I think it's solid. I think it's solid. Just keeping it moving here. Appreciate everybody's patience. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out today, asking questions, talking shop. I'm going to keep this moving. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, if you're enjoying the conversation, I do just ask if you could kindly like the stream. That certainly helps me for algorithm purposes. And I will be back on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, for ahead of Thursday Night Football. And of course, the start sit streams on Saturday and Sunday. I will be back doing those this weekend. I had off this past weekend because I was hosting friends and family. But I am back this weekend, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, ahead of the slate. We'll help start sit questions when we were through practice reports and we're up against it with with all of the information that we can possibly have before the games kick off. We can talk through your situation then. So be sure to tune in if you're available. Appreciate everybody coming in, hanging out today. And of course, appreciate everybody's patience as I move through these questions. Number 1 waiver is Amari Demercado in a vacuum. If you need a wide receiver, then you could go KJ Osborne. You could go Josh Palmer. But in a vacuum, Amari Demercado is the number 1 waiver claim tonight. If you're desperate for running back help, half your FOB at least. Maybe you're not desperate for running back help, but you never say no to running back help. 15 to 20% of your FOB. And then Roshan Johnson, Jeff Wilson, Donta Foreman, they're all other options. If you could use running back help, 10 to 12% of your fob. If you don't need it, maybe closer to 20% if you do need it. It all depends on how RB needy you are, but let's call a spade a spade. Everybody is RB needy at all times. It's just a matter of when that happens, you know? So Demercado 1. I like Tajay Spears. If Tajay Spears is available, I would put him ahead of the Bears running backs, and I would have put ahead of Jeff Wilson. But I guess I wouldn't put him over Demercado because Demercado is a guy that you could conceivably fire up as soon as this week. But if you are set at running back and you really need a wide receiver, KJ Osborne, um, Josh Palmer, going even deeper. You could go Rashee Rice for Kansas City. You could go Josh Downs for Indianapolis. That's going even deeper. But Demercado, number 1. And okay, I'm sorry. You said just below, really need a third running back. Demercado, Tajay Spears, one of the Bears running backs is fine. Jeff Wilson is fine. But I would go Demercado 1, and I would go, if he's available, I would go Tajay Spears 2. Let's see. Would I trade Amon-Ra and Engram for Olave, Kyren, and is that Gus Edwards? You have Lawrence, Pollard, Walker, Jefferson. You already have Laporta, so you don't need Engram, or you don't need both of those guys. You have Debo and you have McLaurin. Now, the one thing is, Francisco, is you have Trevor Lawrence, so you would be breaking up a stack if you traded Engram. But you would be getting some really good depth back in return. And you lost Justin Jefferson, so getting Olave would be a real nice, saying he's a Band-Aid is that's an insult to Chris Olave, but that's a real nice replacement for losing Justin Jefferson for a month. Oh, you'd be giving up Amon-Ra as well. I mean, so it's a lateral move, really. You're still down to Olave. You'd be down to Olave, Debo, Terry McLaurin. I mean, that's still pretty good. I'm trying to think if you could you trade Amon-Ra and Laporta? You keep Engram, you keep the stack intact, and you could ask for more because Laporta has been better than Evan Engram. Could you get, trade Amon-Ra, trade Laporta? Could you get Olave? Could you get Kyren? And could you get a better running back than Gus Edwards, who's another running back that they have? Like, Laporta has been better than Engram. Could you keep the stack intact with Lawrence and Engram and ask for a better running back? Or another good wide receiver, since you just lost Justin Jefferson and you'd be trading Amon-Ra. I would ask for a better player than Gus Edwards. But yeah, you are onto something here. You could, I don't think I would trade. I wouldn't trade Walker, and I wouldn't trade the Seahawks running backs. Is that Justin Herbert? I don't know if that's Justin Herbert or Khalil Herbert. If you can give me full names when appropriate, that certainly helps in figuring this stuff out. But yeah, I mean, if you make that move, if you can get Olave, Kyren Williams, and another good wide receiver instead of Gus Edwards, I would prefer to make that happen. Yeah, I would prefer to make that happen. Let's see. Just moving on through. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Mixon, Brees Hall, or take Calvin Ridley, Puka, or seat for Henry or Barkley. I would trade Mr. Grapefruit. I would trade Derrick Henry. I would keep Saquon. I would keep Mixon. I would keep Brees Hall. And yeah, I would take CD or Puka would be the preference. But if I could get Calvin Ridley too, I guess that's fine. Um, Derrick Henry makes me nervous, man. For the rest of the season, he makes me nervous. I don't know that I necessarily want to trust. Don't know that I want to necessarily want to trust Derrick Henry for the rest of the season. He's very volatile. 29-year-old running back on a bad Titans offense that is prone to falling behind and having to throw the ball and abandon the run. We've seen it happen a couple of times. Tajay Spears gets in there instead of Derrick Henry. If you can trade Derrick Henry for any one of those wide receivers, I would do it. I would 100% do it. Yes. If you can keep Saquon, keep Brees, keep Mixon. If you can turn Derrick Henry into CD, then awesome. Puka, awesome. Ridley, awesome. If you can make that happen, do it. I am in full support of that. Do it. Let's see, Lucas, you're in your rebuilding situation, but you were offered Waddle, a first, and a second for Bijan. Yeah, I mean, see, like Bijan is just one of those pieces where it's just like, I don't know that I necessarily want to give him up. He is the dynasty RB1 right now. He's the dynasty RB1. In Superflex formats, he is a top 7 or 8 asset overall. In one quarterback dynasty formats, he's like the third or fourth most valuable player. I like Jalen Waddle a lot. I do. For Waddle to Christian Watson. But no, no, Luke, no. I just don't. I don't want to trade Bijan. I need a good player and 2 first-round picks. A really good player and 2 first-round picks. And I'll think about it. I need 2. Yeah. I need 1 really good player and I need 2 first-round picks. And I'll think about it. And I don't even know if I want to do that. I don't even know if I want to do that. So no, I would hold Bijan, Lucas. You just if anybody's even if you're in a rebuild, in a dynasty rebuild, if your league mates are trying to get Bijan off of you, you just got to tell them like, you got to blow me away. You got to blow me away with an offer. I would just say that. You got to blow me away with an offer. You're probably going to, you're going to scare everybody off with that, but that's okay. You have a top 4 or 5 non-quarterback. If it's super flex, even still, it's like a top 8 piece. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Yep. Would not do that. And then G Soccer, anywhere you can improve. I mean, quarterback. Dak's not putting up big numbers right now. Like, what are his finishes? QB 29, QB 17, QB 18, QB 19, QB 25. I mean, quarterback, GSOC. Yeah, I mean, you need a quarterback. The rest of the roster is great. The rest of the roster looks really strong. You need a quarterback. You need to move off of Dak. So depends on who's available. It's 12-team redraft. I mean, I'd rather have Sam Howell, or Matthew Stafford. Or there's a lot of quarterbacks I'd rather have than Dak right now. Dak's best performance on the year so far is the QB 17. That's not getting it done in one quarterback. Dak is a drop in one quarterback leagues. for anything else. Maybe not anything else, but pretty damn close. Quarterback. And if the wire is thin, and I see your question here, thoughts on Dak. Yeah, I hope I'm kind of saying it here. He's a drop in 10, 12 team leagues. He's a drop. In one quarterback leagues, Dak is, I would not roster him. I would not roster him. So yeah, I got to imagine there's got to be a guy on the wire, G Soccer, like a Sam Howell, and ideally you don't even have to make a trade, because in one quarterback you don't really want to make a trade for a quarterback. There are exceptions to every rule, but no, yeah, there's got to be a guy on the wire that is an upgrade over Dak. Traded Devontae Adams for CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk. That's a win. That's a huge win. You got both of those guys for. I mean, I love Devontae Adams. Don't get it twisted. Devontae Adams is awesome, but you got Lamb and Ayuk. That's a win. I'm not trying to be rude, but there's not a ton of analysis for me here to talk. Like that's a win. Well, sorry. Let me make sure I understand the context here. If you acquired CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk, then you won. If you traded, yes, and it sounds like that's the case. If you traded Devontae Adams and got CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk, that is a big win. If you traded CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk and got Devontae Adams, that is not a win. That's a lot of good value for, it's a great player for a great player and a really, really good player. And so the value is without question on the Lamb Ayuk side. Ayuk and Lamb is a colossal win, even though Adams is still awesome. Yep. Traded Godwin for Cooper. I mean, that's fine. I obviously it's a little, it's a little dicey. It's a little dicey with Deshaun Watson's shoulder injury, but in a vacuum, I'd rather have Amari Cooper than Chris Godwin. Better quarterback play. Cooper's the clear top option in the passing game every week. Sometimes it's going to be Mike Evans for the Bucks. I love Godwin, but yeah, I'd rather have Cooper, so that's fine. Obviously, the one concern is how healthy is Deshaun Watson's shoulder, but that's fine. I'm okay with the trade. If you got Cooper, that's fine. I'm okay with that. We assume Deshaun Watson's not going to be hurt the whole year. He's not going to be hurt the whole year. Okay, so this is a start sit question. Jacobs, Ford, Henry, lots of good running back. Shit, lots of good running backs. I mean, Jacobs, probably Ford. Oh, it's a tough matchup for Cleveland. They play in San Francisco. Jacobs, you have to. You probably got to go Henry. Oh, and Hall. I would go Breece Hall. Jacobs, Breece Hall. And then Chase, Higgins if he plays. And then, man, it's a lot of really good players. It's a lot of really good players. I would encourage you to, none of these guys are playing in the Thursday night game, so there's no decision to be made before Thursday. If you can come back on either Saturday or Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 11 a.m. Sunday, when we have, practice reports, injury reports, especially with T. Higgins, I can give a little bit more of a definitive answer. Jacobs has to be in. Breece Hall, I think, has to be in. I mean, on Jamar Chase. And then at that point, it's like, do you start in the, do you start T. Higgins if he's healthy? Probably. Do you start Garrett Wilson over Godwin? Yeah, that's going to be something you got to think about over the course. We got the matchup, practice reports, injury reports, all that good stuff. I mean, Jacobs is a slam dunk. I would say Brees Hall is a slam dunk, and obviously Jamar Chase is a slam dunk. But we got to see about T. Higgins. If he's in, you have to play him. If he's not, then you could go like Garrett Wilson and Godwin and let Taylor and Henry and Rashad White sit in bad matchups and Ford. A lot of really good pieces. A lot of really good pieces. It's a good problem to have, but yeah, tough to definitively flesh that one out today. Try to come back on Saturday or Sunday if you can, and we'll get it sorted out. Let's see. Oh, he hate me. You got a question. I just saw it. Watson or Robinson as in your super flex position? Watson, if Watson's shoulder is okay. Washington has Atlanta on the road. That's a tough matchup. That's a tough matchup by the numbers. So, and in Superflex, I mean, Watson, if he goes, Watson. If he's inactive, then, obviously the decision is a little easier. But if Watson is active and the vibes are good around his shoulder later in the week, he's feeling better, he's throwing fine, he feels good, he's ready to go, he's ready to play, then it has to be Deshaun Watson. It has to be. But, if the vibes are bad, if it's like, oh, he's still having shoulder pain, he's got discomfort, maybe he's going to try to give it a go, but he's banged up, he doesn't feel great, the vibes aren't great, then maybe we pivot to Brian Robinson, but we got a plan for Watson. We got a plan to play Deshaun Watson. We got a plan to play Deshaun Watson. But we got to keep it, yeah. I mean, practice reports, injury reports, general vibes, like what is being reported. Does he feel good? Does he feel okay? Does he think he's back to normal? Can he play? Can he give it a go? Or is it like shoulder still bothering him? Maybe he tries to play, but he's going to be less than 100%. Then, yeah, maybe we don't play him. But we got to see what the vibes are later in the week. Yeah, got to keep an eye on the vibes and the injury reports. Higgins and Ayuk for Kyron Williams and Nico. Desperate for running backs. You've Kupp, Adams, and Thielen. It feels like a lot in the form of running back depth to give up for Kyron Williams. I don't think I would do that. I am not opposed to where your head is at, but I would ask for something better than Kyron Williams. You could take just one of those guys. You could take just Ayuk, I would think, and ask for just a better running back in a 1-for-1 swap. Or hell, sell high on Adam Thielen. You could even do that. I would even say maybe that's your move. Maybe sell high on Adam Thielen. And then if you want to get Kyron Williams for him straight up, I think that's fair. That's probably fair. That's what I would do. I would hold Higgins. I would hold Ayuk. I would sell high on Thielen and try to get Kyron straight up. Could he, because Kyron's coming off a bad game. Thielen is on a heater right now. I would try to sell high on Adam Thielen and get Kyron Williams. And I would save Higgins and Ayuk. But no, that's too much. I would not do that trade. I hear you're desperate for running back help, but I would not do that trade. That's giving up too much. I like Kyron Williams. I like Nico Collins, but Higgins and Ayuk are both better. They're both better. Yeah, I would not do that trade. I would counter and try to sell high on Adam Thielen and get Kyron Williams. I would try to do that 1-for-1. That's what I would try to do. And that's something you can ask for right now. Because Thielen is playing really, really well. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah. Give them Thielen, ask for Kyron. I would do that. Let's see. A rate question. Hurts, Howell for Superflex, solid. Wide receivers are really strong. Yeah, I mean, it's a good team, Jonathan. I mean, you got Montgomery, who looks like a league winner right now. You hope Jones can come back from the hamstring. Maybe you trade one of those wide receivers for some running back depth. Maybe you trade Michael Thomas for I don't know. Like, what could you trade? I'm trying to think. What could you trade Michael Thomas for? Could you get? No. Could you ask even for like? I know they're hurt right now, but could you dangle Michael Thomas to somebody who either has like James Conner or Devon Achan, like one of these guys that got hurt? Maybe do that, like, and get some running, like, stash some running back depth. Yes, they're hurt now, but if they come back later in the season, they'll be good running back depth for you. Maybe do something like that. You don't really need Michael Thomas. You have Tyreek, you have AJ Brown, Myers and Palmer and Tank are good options. You know, could you dangle Michael Thomas for some injured running back for an injured running back? Like, get them at a discount now. Give somebody a viable wide receiver and get some running back depth. I would look to do something like that. I would look to do something like that. Trade question. You receive Kamara and Laporta. You give Bijan, Komet, and the defense. Uh, it's an upgrade going from Komet to Laporta, but I'd rather have Bijan than um, Alvin Kamara. I know Kamara has, he's getting a ton of catches. I think he's got like 15 targets through 2 games or something like that, maybe more, honestly. Um, I don't want to trade Bijan. That's a big drop off, or not it's a sizable drop off. And you're the one who has to give the 3 for 2. Like, nah, I'm not feeling that one. I'm not feeling that one. Laporta's awesome. Laporta looks great. He does. And it is a sizable drop off, or it's a sizable upgrade going from Komet to Laporta. It is a sizable upgrade going from Komet to Laporta, for sure. I just don't know if I want to give up Bijan and get Kamara back. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know that that's one I necessarily want to do. And if you're 4-1, I mean, yeah, if it ain't broke, I'm a big proponent of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, that's just, if I'm 4-1, yeah, I don't want to give up. Like, Bijan was your first round pick. I just don't want to give that up. Laporta's been a great story. He has. He's been awesome. And he's tiers ahead of Cole Kmet, it looks like. But the sizable difference in the tight end shift or upgrade doesn't move, like, actually doesn't change things for me, as far as I don't want to downgrade at running back. At the end of the day, I don't want to downgrade at running back. I think I would keep Bijan. I would. And again, you're 4-1. Stick with what's working. Stick with what's working. What's going on, Derek? Send Olave and Alexander Madison and get Pollard. I don't hate that. I'm just trying to think. Like, that is decent depth to be giving up. That is decent depth to be giving up, and I certainly like Olave. Madison obviously is less appealing with the acquisition of Akers, although he has proven, at least so far, he remains that team's that the Vikings RB1. Pollard's had a couple of quiet back-to-back weeks in tough matchups, right? He was the RB27 against the Patriots. He was the RB30 against the 49ers. And again, against the Patriots, the Cowboys blew the Patriots out, right? They didn't need Tony Pollard that week. So let's toss that game in the trash. Bad game against San Francisco. San Francisco looks like the best team in football right now, and their defense is ferocious. On the road, that was always going to be a tough spot for Pollard. I'm not going to hold that one against him too much. I'm not going to hold that one against him too much. And in half PPR, like it maintains the running back value so much more. So Pollard is a good add if you're really strong at wide receiver and could use a running back. Like, are you really strong at wide receiver? And do you need a running back? If that's the case, I'm okay with this trade. But I would much rather have Tony Pollard than I would much rather have Tony Pollard than Alexander Madison. But Olave, for me, remains a very strong, probably top 20 option for the season. Like when let's consider all running backs and wide receivers. Olave is still a top 20 guy for me. If you're loaded at wide receiver and could use a good upgrade at running back, I'm okay with this. But I do like Olave quite a bit, even though he's had a couple quiet weeks recently. Yeah. If you've got a bunch of good wide receivers, I'm okay with the trade. But if you give up Olave and you're down to like a couple wide receiver 2s and a wide receiver 3 after the trade, then I'm not as crazy about it. Okay, there's your roster. Kamara, Mostert. You would be adding Pollard to Kamara and Mostert. You'd have CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, Tank Dell, Dubs. And it's a 2-flex league, so you could actually start Kelsey and Laporta. And you could keep firing up Lamb and Ridley as your wide receivers, and then you've got Mostert, Kamara, Pollard as your options. I think I'm tentatively okay with this. Actually, now that I've got a little bit, now that I have your team, now that I have your full team, because you can start Kelsey and Laporta every week, like with those two, with that second flex spot. You don't need to move off of Laporta in a trade, even though you have Kelsey. You can start both of those guys. And you can keep firing up Lamb and Ridley as your wide receivers. Your depth takes a hit at wide receiver quite a bit, but if you only start 2 wide receivers, then I don't mind picking up Pollard for Madison. I don't mind that at all. I think I'm tentatively okay with this. I think I'm tentatively okay with that to acquire Pollard. He does have a tough schedule, but I mean, Pollard's getting bell cow work when the Cowboys have actual competitive games. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that because you could flex. You can use both of those tight ends. I think I'm okay with that, Derek. I think I'm fine with it. If you want to pull the trigger on that, I think I'm okay with it. Currently 1-4. You acquired Devontae Smith for Mostert. I think that's okay. Oh, and it's your second year play. Well, first of all, Alex, last year was your first year, but hopefully you're enjoying fantasy. I've been playing for since I was a freshman in high school, which was more years ago than I'd like to admit. So welcome, even though last year was your official welcome. Getting Devontae Smith in full PPR and giving up Mostert, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, Mostert gets a big boost because Devon Achane is expected to miss some time with this knee injury. So Mostert's value just went up a little bit. But Devontae Smith is a top 15 wide receiver any given week. And in full PPR, so his value is boosted. I think you did good. I think that's fine. I think that's just fine. I think that's fine, Alex. I think you did a good. I think that's a good job. I think that's a good job getting a top 15 wide receiver for a running back who definitely has plenty of value in Raheem Mostert, but it might wane a little bit if and when Devon Achane comes back. Devontae Smith's role though is locked in all season, no matter what. Yeah, I like that move. I like that move. 1-4 sucks. Hopefully you can turn it around. You're not totally dead yet, but obviously we got to get some wins now. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. He hate me. I got your question. We got to rock with Watson if he is active. Should you drop Deontay, Tyler Algier, or Kareem Hunt for Jeff Wilson? Probably Hunt. Jerome Ford is the guy you prefer to have in that Browns backfield. Hunt is an older player now and might just be washed up. I'm not. Kareem Hunt doesn't do anything for me at this stage of his career. So Hunt, I want to sit on Deontay Johnson until we get him back from IR. And Algier is a decent enough stash, especially given the offense that he is in. If anything were to happen to B. John, Algier would have RB1 upside. So Kareem Hunt is the drop for Jeff Wilson. I'm fine with that. I like it even better if you pick up Tajay Spears instead of Jeff Wilson if Spears is available. I like Tajay Spears as a pickup this week or in general if he is available. Let's see. 4-1. You have Montgomery, Madison, Taylor, Saquon. Nice. Puka, CD, London, Ridley. Do you package Puka and Madison for Cup? No. I don't think so. It's full PPR. I mean, Puka proved on Sunday he's not going anywhere. Even though Cup is back, he's not going anywhere. I mean, Cup looks like he's back. It only took him one game to remind everybody that he's awesome. But Puka's a low-end wide receiver one at this point in his own right, and you'd be parting with some running back depth. I don't think so. I don't think so. I know Cup is awesome, but Puka has entered a crazy stratosphere really quickly that I don't think anybody could have seen coming. He's a low-end wide receiver one rest of season, and Madison is just really good running back depth, especially as we continue to wait on Taylor rounding into form. And Saquon is still coming back from injury as well. I don't think so. I think you stay put. You're 4-1. You're sitting pretty. We don't even know if Saquon's going to be able to come back this week. Taylor is in another bad matchup against Jacksonville. I would wait. I would keep holding. Because you might need to start Madison this week. Taylor's in a bad matchup. And Saquon, is remains a game time. He's up in the air. We don't know if he's going to play this week or not. We hope he does, but we don't know. I think no. Kupp is clearly the best player that you would potentially get in here, but I think given your situation and the options that are available to you, I think you hold. I think you hold your depth. I think you hold your depth. I would wait. I would let it ride. I would let it ride. Can you start McLaughlin this week? Not if Javonte is healthy, or not if Javonte plays. And it sounds like Javonte is gonna play because he's practicing in full today. You're starting Eckler. You're starting Swift. You're starting Olave. You're starting Thielen. I don't know if you can start Jerry Jeudy. It breaks my heart. I don't know if you can start Jerry Jeudy. But that said, I probably would. He has at least 50 yards receiving in each of the past 3 games. Okay, yes, never mind. It's been we're still waiting on a big game from Judy, but he's cleared 50 receiving yards in his past 3 games. No, I would not start McLaughlin over all those guys unless Javonte is out, and then maybe we course correct on Thursday. Let's see, where are we at? Do you trade Pollard, Tajay, Olave, and Jaden Reed for Mostert, Ayuk, Nico, and Kirk? That's a huge trade. You'd be giving up Pollard. You have Bijan, and you have the okay. And you already have Wilson and Spears. Nice, good stashes. Do you trade Pollard, Tajay, Spears, and Olave? You have Deontay Johnson, Zay Jones. You'd be getting Mostert. You'd be getting Ayuk. You'd be getting Nico, and you'd be getting Christian Kirk. I think I might be okay with this, Julio, because wide receiver is a big need for you. You have Olave, but Deontay's on IR. We're not going to get him back until week 7, and who knows what that'll look like. J-Mo is a dart throw. Jaden Reed is a dart throw. Zay Jones is a dart throw. I think I mean, I don't want to give up Pollard and Olave, but you're getting Ayuk, which is good. You're getting Nico, which looks solid, and you're getting Kirk, which looks solid. Is there any way, Julio, that you can keep Tajay Spears? Can you keep Tajay Spears? That would be my question. If you can keep Tajay Spears, who I really, really like as a stash, then I think I am okay with this. Because you're the one giving up like really big names in Pollard and Olave. But I can tell, or you can see it's clear, you desperately need some wide receiver help. But if you can turn that into Mostert, Ayuk, Nico, Christian Kirk, and you keep Tajay Spears, then I'm okay with that. If you can keep Tajay Spears, and for me, that would be like, that's a piece that I want to keep. I'm already giving you Pollard and Olave. Like, let me keep one of my running back stashes. If you can keep Tajay Spears, given your wide receiver situation, I'm okay with that deal. If you have to trade Tajay, I would want a depth running back piece in return because you don't have Connor for the next 4 weeks. But if you can keep Tajay Spears, I would do that trade. Given your situation, if you can keep Tajay Spears, I would do that trade. And Derek, we talked through your situation. You are welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Thoughts on Gibbs' rest of season? I mean, I don't know why they drafted him 12th overall. I mean, Montgomery has been great, but I mean, they're not using him enough for a guy that they drafted 12th overall. He's an RB2, hopefully. RB3 downside, RB1 upside if Montgomery can't play. Low end RB1 upside if Montgomery can't play, but like he's an RB2. He's electric. He's a good player. He makes plays. But as long as Montgomery is healthy, he's capped. He's capped. He's a decent RB2. Maybe. And it needs to be if it's not in full PP, if you have Gibbs and it's not a full PPR league, then he's an RB3. He's an RB2 if it's full PPR. He's an RB3 if it's half PPR. It's hard to trust right now. He's a good player, but Montgomery is killing it right now. He's an RB3 unless it's full PPR, and then he's got a little bit of RB2 appeal. Yes, it's okay to drop Josh Kelly. Eckler's back, and even if he wasn't, Kelly did nothing with his opportunity. Kelly is fine to drop. Demercado, Jeff Wilson, Tajay Spears, Roshan, any of them. Yes, Josh Kelly is fine to drop. He did nothing with his opportunity. Pickens or Deontay rest of season, I'll go with the healthy guy now. Just like that feels like the what it has to be. We just don't know what Deontay is going to be coming back from the hamstring injury. He's going to end up missing like basically the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. So I'll give the nod. I'll give the nod to the guy who's healthy, and Pickens is making plays. Pickens is making plays. He's doing well. Like, yes, his opportunity is huge because Deontay is out. But I mean, we can't move on. We're not. Well, we gotta give the nod to Pickens. He's the healthy one right now. I know Deontay's coming back, but just like it's got to be Pickens. It has rest of season. It has to be Pickens right now. Has to be. It has to be Pickens. And then Emil, as far as starting Jeff Wilson in a vacuum, I don't know. I don't know who your other options are. We got to see what injury reports and practice reports look like this week. In a vacuum, that's tough to say. He's got a good opportunity as long as Achane is out, but I don't know who your other options are. I don't know who I don't know who else you could play over him. Honestly, hopefully not. Would want to see him for a week first. We got to see him first. Lost Jefferson. Sorry to hear that. If you have both Kupp and Puka, I think you're fine. I think you're okay. I really do. WSP, I'm sorry. I just realized I missed your defense question. I will get to that next. My apologies. I will get to that. Let's see. But yeah, if you have Kupp and Puka, you're okay. Like you are. I know that it's weird to roster some guys. Sometimes it's weird to roster guys on the same team, but like there's clearly enough work for both of them. And there's clearly enough work for both of them to be wide receiver ones. I think the Rams are a little bit better of a team than maybe we were predicting coming into the season. They're scrappy. They're going to be in it. They're better than the Cardinals. They already beat the Seahawks. I don't know that they're better than the Seahawks, but they already beat the Seahawks. Like they will fight for a wild card spot. Look at the rest of the NFC. The Bears and the Vikings are bad. The Rams are probably better than the Packers. I'm just looking at the AFC North. They're better than the Giants. They're better than the Commanders. They're better than the Panthers in the NFC South. They're probably I don't know if they're better than the Bucs. They might be better than the Falcons. Like all this to say, they're going to be in the wild card mix. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton with Stafford. I mean, yeah, they can both coexist for sure. I don't know if anybody's watching the baseball playoffs right now, but Texas just blew it open against the Orioles. Sorry if there are any Baltimore Orioles fans in attendance. That series could be curtains for the Baltimore Orioles after an excellent season. Sorry for the diatribe. Yeah, Luke, you're fine. Yeah, they can exist on the same on the same fantasy team. But I will say now that Kupp is back, Amon-Ra rest of season over Puka. Amon-Ra is his team's wide receiver 1. Puka might not be his team's wide receiver 1 anymore. He's still very good. I think he still has low-end wide receiver 1 upside, but Amon-Ra has, I would say, a little bit more clear-cut wide receiver 1 upside. Amon-Ra rest of season, but Puka is fine, especially even if you have Kupp. It's fine. And then let me get to WSP. Sorry about that. I missed the defense question earlier. Is that Kansas City? Who's KS? Is that Kansas City? I mean, the Chiefs. Of these options, I'll take the Chiefs. Short week at home. Broncos are reeling. Chiefs are good. Chiefs defense is good. They were solid even in a road performance against the Vikings. I think they got a couple sacks, couple fumble recoveries. Um, the Chiefs, the Jets have the Eagles. They are at home, but that's a tough matchup with Hurts. The Seahawks have who does Seahawks get coming out of the bye week? I'm blanking on their matchup. Oh, they're on the road in Cincinnati. No, Burrow had a better game last week. And then the Vikings, forget about it. It's the Chiefs for sure. Of those options, it's the Chiefs. And I would say it's not particularly close. The Jets are talented, but they got to play the Eagles. And that's a bad matchup. And the Seahawks are on the road in Cincinnati. The Vikings get the Bears. Yeah, Justin Fields has had a couple of good weeks back to back, and the Vikings just stink. Like, nah, I'm not chasing that just because they're playing the Bears. It's the Chiefs. It's the Chiefs. And for me, it's like clear cut. Get the Chiefs. Get the Chiefs defense if you can. Short week at home against the Broncos, who are not good. Kansas City, for sure. I'm firing them up already in multiple leagues. I already have them. I started them last week. I had them for week 4 against the Jets. They didn't have a great game, but I grabbed them because they were playing Zach Wilson. I kept them because I said, screw it, they're a good defense, and now I have them for this week. I'm firing the Chiefs up in multiple areas. Yep. The Chiefs, for sure. Should you trade Tua and Laporta for Bijan? Yes. Abso-freaking-lutely. You can get a top 5 running back rest of season. 100. What? Yes, 100%. You can make that happen. Somebody's willing to do that. I mean, maybe this is a super flex league because Tua would have a lot more value in super flex. Yes. If you can get Bijan, yes. Yes. You have Kelsey, so you don't need Laporta. You already have Field. Yes. 100%. Like 100%. 100%. Do that trade. Tua and Laporta for Bijan? Yes. I don't know how many ways I can just say yes. Like for me, it's like there's not a ton to think about here. If you can make that happen, you just do it. Bijan's a top 3 to 5 running back rest of season. That does not grow on trees. I am going to be starting to wind this down here shortly, you guys. But I appreciate everybody coming in, hanging out, talking shop today. Always fun to talk fantasy. If you like what you see and like what you hear, if you enjoy the conversation, I just ask that you like the stream. That helps for algorithm purposes. I will be back on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern for ahead of the Thursday night. And, of course, start sit help on both Saturday and Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday. Bring your start sit questions. We will have the most information we possibly can from practice reports, injury reports, and general overall vibes. That'll be the best time that I can give start sit help, so be sure to tune in if you can. What to do with Najee? Nothing. I mean, you can't sell him because you're not going to get anything good for him. And you can't start him because he's not doing anything right now. But he is running back depth. And there is value in that no matter who you are. I think you just need to leave Najee on your bench. If you can include him as a piece in a trade, to like maybe you trade a good wide receiver and Najee for an upgrade at running back, that would probably be like the best case scenario that you can do with Najee. I just can't imagine that many people want Najee right now. I certainly don't. There's not that much to do with Najee right now. You kind of just have to hold. If something happens to Jaylen Warren, Najee will just get more volume. And then, at least if something happens to one of your other running backs, at least you have a guy where it's like, well, I don't love this dude, but at least I have an option to turn to. If you can put him in a trade with, let's say, a good wide receiver and get a better running back, then okay, fine. That would probably be the best case scenario. But you're going to be selling low on Najee. That might just be the case no matter what. In all likelihood, you probably have to just hold. um, so this is a 8-team PPR league. So like this is going to be a loaded roster. I mean, this team looks really, really strong. Um, there's not really much to do here. Like there's not too much to do in the way of moves. I mean, I guess you could try to package like Kyron Williams and Jalen Waddle for a better running back. Like a Walker, a Mixon, um, Aaron Jones. Hell, maybe even Jonathan Taylor if you want to roll the dice. Um, you have Chase, you have Olave, you have Ridley. So you don't need, maybe you want to keep Waddle. You don't need Ridley. If you want to keep Ridley, you don't need Waddle. I would trade one of those two. Like I guess I would keep Olave. Well, you're obviously keeping Chase. I mean, between Ridley and Waddle, take one of those two, trade him with Kyron Williams for, you know, Jacobs, Eckler. Get a really good running back. Like something like that. Take two good players and turn it into a great player. There's gonna be loaded rosters in 8-team leagues. You can try to do that. But you're not gonna, you might as well get as good of a roster as you can. That's the trade you've been trying to do. Man. Well, then you're on the right path. I mean, okay, so you're on the right path. You got your mindset's right where it needs to be. I would try to do that. The thing is, it's going to be tough in an 8-team league where excuse me, rosters are loaded, so depth is not as big of a thing that people are looking for. But if you can pull it off, Kenneth Walker, Mixon, maybe not, Aaron Jones or Jonathan Taylor, that might feel a little riskier. But it could be good way to get another really good running back next to Bijan. But you're on the right path. Like that's a good thought. It's a good thought process. It's just going to be tough because generally speaking, I'm not trying to, say anything, I'm not trying to be like, rude or anything, but it's just like a lot of people are going to have a good team in an 8-team. Like in an 8-team league, 7 teams are going to be good, So it's just going to be tough to find that one team that is willing to do that type of deal. And then G Soccer, just to bring this thing home, Dak Prescott is a drop in one quarterback leagues. He's a drop. His best performance so far is quarterback 17. That'll work in Superflex. That's not doing it. That's not doing anything in one quarterback leagues. He's a drop. Sam Howell, Matt Stafford. Like what other quarterbacks might be out there? Derek Carr. Like any of these, maybe not Carr. Yeah, I mean Howell, Stafford, Russell Wilson, any of these guys are better options. Any of these guys are better options than Dak. Yeah, your team is good. Sorry if you missed it earlier. I was talking about it. Your team is good, except at quarterback. I would drop Dak for whatever the best option is on the waiver wire, whatever quarterback is the best option. And if they're getting hoarded, then yeah, I don't know. Trade your wide receiver 4, which I guess is Mike Evans, for, I don't know. Try to get Herbert, pair him with Keenan Allen. Something like that. The only thing you need to move off of, though, is Dak. Quarterback in one quarterback leagues, topping out at QB 17 ain't cutting it. Ain't cutting it. And team, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't trade Bijan. Especially like Eckler, obviously he's coming back, so he's a little bit more appealing, but like Bijan's younger and not hurt. And for me, that's all it comes down to. Eckler picked up the injury. Kamara is older and not as effective as he used to be. I would not do that. I would not give up Bijan. I think giving up the 3 for, I think that's too much. Waddle, Kyron, and Palmer, or even Demercado. You could throw in Demercado. for even hell, even if it was like if you wanted to do like Waddle and Kyron for just Eckler, or even throw in Demercado for just Eckler, like hell, you could do that. You could do that. I don't want to give up Bijan. Bijan's healthy, younger, super talented, Saquon level prospect as a rookie. Like I want to ride that train until the wheels fall off this year. I want to ride that trade until, and I know Tyler Algier is there, vulturing a ton of work, but Bijan is super talented. The Falcons want to run the ball as much as possible. I want to keep Bijan. I want to keep Bijan. And that was your first round pick. So, well, maybe Jamar Chase was your first round pick. I don't know. Either way, I want to keep Bijan. Top 5 running back for the rest of the season. Probably top 3. Let's be real. And yeah, G-Soccer, real quick. Stafford is an upgrade over Dak. Russ is an upgrade over Dak. Hell, Geno might be an upgrade over Dak. Topping out at QB 17 ain't cutting it. That's not gonna get it done. Fletcher Cox, what's going on, man? Is this Fletcher Cox, defensive tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles? I hope you get well soon. But real talk, trading Pollard and Christian Watson for Taylor and Calvin Ridley. This is interesting. I'm not unopposed to this. But Pollard still feels to me, he's had 2 down weeks. One was not his fault because it was a blowout. The Cowboys killed the Patriots, and so they just didn't need to use him. And then against San Francisco on Sunday Night Football, it was the Cowboys who got killed. The 49ers killed the Cowboys, and Pollard just, in those situations, fantasy opportunities, just like ceilings get capped. They go out the window. Teams start they're having a hard time moving the ball. They're not putting up the numbers against a really good defense. Like it just didn't happen. I guess I would rather have Ridley than Watson. I would rather have Ridley than Watson. I would rather have Ridley than Watson. And I guess I would rather have Pollard than Taylor. But presumably Taylor could come back to, being a top 12 option for the rest of the season. I guess Fletcher Cox, I guess I'm okay with that. If you're like 2-3 and you need to shake it up, or, if that's your situation, like if you're 4-1 or 5-0, I'm a big, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you're 2-3 and you feel like you need to shake things up, I do like Calvin Ridley more than Christian Watson, because I believe in Trevor Lawrence right now more than I believe in Jordan Love, even though Lawrence hasn't been setting the world on fire. And as far as I'd rather have Taylor and Ridley. Justin Jefferson is a massive, massive question mark for the rest of the season. Hamstring injury, dicey. On a bad Vikings team that could be out of the playoff race by the time he's ready to come back. No, in that scenario, I'd rather have Pollard and Watson. But I would take Taylor and Ridley. In a trade back for that, I would take Taylor and Ridley. I would not take Jefferson and Pierce. Jefferson is incredibly volatile rest of season. Soft tissue injury on a bad team. Scary. TJ for Eckler. Who's TJ, Vision? Am I like blanking hard on who TJ is? Is that Hawkinson? Like TJ Hawkinson for Eckler? If you've got somebody like Laporta, then sure. And could use a running back, then sure. Yeah. Do you have like a Laporta? Do you have somebody else you can turn to at tight end? If you do, then sure, okay. If you're gonna, and if you need the running back help, then sure, yeah, okay. In a vacuum, yes, rather have Eckler. In a vacuum, yes, I'd rather have Eckler than Hawkinson. But and you do have Laporta. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm okay with that. It's a risk because Eckler's coming back from an injury and he's a running back and he's older, so it's a risk. But yes, I would do that. I would do that. I would do that. Last couple of questions here, guys, and then I do need to shut this thing down, but I do appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out today. I will get to these last couple of questions. If I do miss you right at the end here, feel free to join me in Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream and all of the videos and streams on my channel. You can hit me up there. I'll be sure to get to it as I can. I'll give a little bit more to my members in the form of like detail oriented and all that stuff, but I will get to the general public eventually. It is free to join. But if you are interested in being a member, one of those perks is, maybe a little bit more thought process, a little bit more diagnosis in the Discord. But appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out today. Let's see. Fletch, I got that last part. I would rather have Pollard and Watson than the Jefferson side. Jefferson is volatile as hell. Vision, I'm okay with that trade. Would I do Waddle for Joe Mixon where I'm acquiring Mixon? Yeah, that's fair. Like straight up 1-for-1. That's fair. Because you have Chase. You have what? Who else do you have? Olave. You have Ridley. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's okay. And yeah, that gives you a little bit more running back depth. Yeah, that's okay. I'm fine with that one, T-Money. Greg, still go all in on London. Van Jefferson's not a needle mover for me in that regard. London should be on a roster. Point blank, hands down, end of story. I know he's frustrating. I know he's inconsistent. He has to be rostered. He's too talented to be sitting on waivers. I don't think Van Jefferson. Nah, I don't think that moves the needle one way or another. Doesn't move the needle one way or another. And then, do I prefer Ridley or Debo? It's close. Like, they're both in the same tier. They're both going to have their wide receiver 1 weeks. Jags got a couple of big wins over in London. Ridley was a top 10 wide receiver this past week. I mean, I guess I slightly prefer Ridley just because San Francisco spreads it around a little bit more. They have McCaffrey, they have Kittle, they have Ayuk, whereas the Jags, they have ETN. He's not on McCaffrey's level. He's good. Christian Kirk is good, but he's not on. I would think it's fair to say he's not on Ayuk's level. They have Evan Ingram, but he's not on Kittle's level. Ridley slightly, but it's close, right? I mean, we're talking about two guys that could be a top 15 option any given week. It's close, but I would say Ridley. Watson and Pickens for Olave. Feels like a lot to give up, but Olave is the best option in this deal. Yeah, I guess that's okay. You're getting the best player. Yeah, that's fine. If you're getting Olave, you're getting the best player, so I guess that's okay. I would theoretically be okay with that. Got offered Derrick Henry and Devontae Smith for Joe Mixon and Amari Cooper. I am not crazy about Derrick Henry right now. He's going to have his good weeks, but he's not 27-year-old Derrick Henry anymore, where it's just like you can lock him in for 25 points each week. Tajay Spears is getting a lot of run. He's playing a ton. And Henry is a little game script dependent these days. If the Titans can run the ball to their heart's content, then Henry will be fine. But if they get behind in games, which is happening a lot, they're not a good team. Tajay Spears is getting on the field. I would say hold what you have. I like Devontae Smith more than Amari Cooper, but I don't like Derrick Henry more than Joe Mixon, more, if that makes sense. I would hold what you have, Iceberg. I would not do that. I would not do that. Last thing here, Vinny, you're starting Bijan and Ken Walker. I encourage start. I do start sit help on Saturday and Sunday. I can give like more definitive thoughts there when we're actually closer to the slate. But Bijan and Ken Walker, like lock it in, hands down. I would say those are the guys you have to fire up regardless of matchup. They're both on heaters right now. We gotta keep rolling with them. Kamara had a great first game back. I don't feel as confident about him. Bijan and Ken Walker are off to stronger starts and have earned it over Kamara so far. That'll do it for me. I got to wrap this thing up, but appreciate everybody hanging out for the past 3 hours talking shop. I will be back on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, before Thursday Night Football. We'll talk practice reports and injury reports on top of potential start, sit, help that are affected by the Thursday night game. So be sure to tune in. Everybody have a great Tuesday night. Good luck with waivers. I will see you guys on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.